Just because you've come to work, so you don't feel like it's a holiday.
And I say I'm not Kenyan.
Yeah, and you say, no, you're not Kenyan.
I'm just doing
You're
it for
angry.
you. I'm helping you today.
You're angry just because you've been told to come to work on this day. Okay. Anyway, we still have COVID.
This
in
is
our
true.
midst, right?
Yes.
And the fluctuating number of daily tests versus the fluctuating number of daily new cases reported. So what do we have today?
All right. So if we want to look around the world, let's start with, first of all, what we see in Kenya, the numbers having increased over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
1,962 cases in Kenya with 64 deaths. The numbers are increasing. Testing, like you said, is fluctuating, oscillating somewhere between 2,000, 3,000, and then dropping down to 1,000 something testing per day.
Yesterday was 1,574.
Yeah, so I mean, there was another day last week and it was 3,077, and then it went down to 2,000. I mean, so there's got to be a question there in terms of what's happening. Maybe even see less numbers today, maybe more numbers tomorrow.
People are
There's
going
no
on holiday.
system to this. So today is a holiday, likely to see less number of tests.
Yeah, yesterday they were looking at the 24 hours. Maybe Saturday people had taken some days off, some time off.
This is true. It's possible.
Okay.
Let's see though. So we're likely to see more and more numbers, towards the tail end of this week. Looking around the world, numbers climbing steadily still. 6,263,905. The US crossed, we talked about, dwindling numbers. The US crossed the 100,000 mark on Friday. So between Saturday and today, Monday morning, EAT, the US has witnessed 6,195 deaths. In the last 4 days, 6,000 deaths. So yes, we say that, maybe not as high, but I mean, you got to look at that for a country that has 300 million people, and you have 6,000 people dying over the last 3 days. You're looking at still average of 2,000 deaths per day. Still happening in the US. We spoke about Brazil last week. Brazil now has 500,000 cases of COVID. In the last 6 hours, less than 200 cases, new cases. However, it's still quite a significant number because we saw they had just crossed on Friday. They had just crossed 450. Now with 514. So yes, behind the US now strongly. Whereas Russia had taken that place, they've now surpassed Russia properly. And they're up there. Mexico.
How many deaths in Brazil so far?
Right. So in Brazil, there are 29,341 deaths. So they're about 5% is what they're looking at now. Okay. In terms of what is being watched, is a red alert there because they also say that.
Is it being overrun? Is Brazil the healthcare system being overrun?
Yeah, that's what they're saying now. They might be put in the red because the healthcare system may not be able to handle, especially the critical cases. Whereas other countries we've seen may have been able to do that. Here, Brazil is going to have a problem with that. And unfortunately, the measures that they took came a little late in the game. And that's what they're looking at now in terms of how they're going to be able to mitigate all of this. 27 deaths in the last 6 hours. And we're likely to see that number change as the hours tick by. Mexico still struggling, now at 90,000. They're very close to 100,000 cases in Mexico, with 3,152 cases in the last 6 hours alone. By the time the 24 hours ends, by this time tomorrow morning, we're likely to see...
How many are they doing in a 24-hour cycle?
Yeah, I mean, we're likely to see about 6,000 cases. Total. So we're looking about 6,000 cases in the last in 24 hours, and this is what is going on. Whereas on Friday we were at about 70,000 cases. Right now they're at 90,000 cases. So Mexico is having a problem here, especially where they also did not, really start testing, really weren't looking at this and taking into consideration what was happening with a lot of border crossings, this, that, the other thing. So they're dealing with that, and yeah, this number will increase by the end of the day. Okay, South Africa, 32,683 cases. We expect this. The death rate's still quite low, but the caseload heavy now because of the testing that we see taking place. Still, the majority, they were looking at 85% of the cases asymptomatic, so they're not really worried about that. It's what they expected. I think it's very interesting that Tanzania still has 509 cases reported.
They haven't announced any new cases, right?
Not in the last 3 weeks.
Now, these rumors that were going around past couple of weeks or days on social media, that people are dying and falling on the streets.
Yeah.
Do we still have those rumors?
The narrative died. It was interesting because we also saw Magufuli said, when all of this started, what did our neighbors do? Our neighbors said they were going into lockdown, shutdown. We continued business as usual. And we got some cases and such people have been able to be treated. And now we are going to open up our economy. Very well. Now, other countries want to open up their economies and they're getting more cases. What makes sense to you? And I thought, this man actually does have a point. I thought to myself, this guy has a point.
What is the point?
Because he was saying, now people want to open up their economies and they're getting more cases. They were instead of shutting down when they had 1 or 2 cases. And he's been able to say, you know what? Let's just try and see how we can manage this thing on our own. And now we see that we don't have many problems. We deal with it where we can. You've been able to manage it. Other people now want to suddenly open up and they're getting hundreds of cases per day. Other people being Big Brother, Kenya, of course.
Yeah, and they're getting cases. And us, we're living with this thing.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. We took the stance from the beginning that we're going to live with this thing and we're going to organize ourselves. All these numbers people are shouting and touting about, it's really not our problem. We're going to continue with life as normal.
The thing is,
pray.
Because Tanzania is testing, for sure, we know that Tanzania is testing because... we have seen even at the border crossings, Tanzania is testing. But what are they doing? When you test positive, they're not isolating you?
This is the thing. I think also they're being very...
What is it that they do?
Economical with their information. I mean, from the number
They tell you test, go and do the nyungu.
Sorry?
The nyungu, where you steam.
Oh, right, yeah.
The steaming treatment.
Look, they're dealing with...
That has been touted in Tanzania. Like, go do your nyungu thing. Steam. Take a lot of lemons. Do dawa.
This is why they probably jumped on this Madagascar route.
Yeah.
Fight it. Route. But I think they were serious about this. Like you say, use the traditional ways to heal yourself that you've normally been using. And call me crazy, but it seems to be working for them.
Yeah, because we are not seeing the cases in Tanzania.
Nope.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know. But the story of what people were falling and dying from in the street, we don't know exactly what that was. We can't say that it was COVID-related without more information.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And I keep saying you cannot really hide death, all right?
No.
You cannot hide death. Kenya has over 1,000 kilometers of a border with Tanzania. If people across the border were dying,
somebody would be shouting about
people on this side would be saying, what? We'd even be seeing people trying to cross over the border. Because the first thing that you do, if you notice people have died, that is to take off. There would be a lot of panic. There would be serious panic in TZ if this thing was happening. Anyway, it's an interesting one there, whatever is happening in the TZ.
Quite.
So we look at the others. We look at Uganda and Rwanda again and the countries around and see what they've been doing and what they're doing. Uganda and Rwanda have insisted this is how we're going to fight it.
Yep.
We will hunker down, close ourselves in, get into a cave, come out only when we hear that there's no more rain. 20 minutes after 6, this is a Situation Room. Happy Madaraka Day. Let's take a look at the weather and then the conversation continues. Good morning.
All right, this Madaraka morning, we're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 13 degrees, highs of 25 today. And then in Nyeri at 14 degrees, it's mostly cloudy, and we will see those conditions through the day with highs of 23. 13 degrees and clear skies in Nakuru when the sun does come up. However, the chance of rain as we go further west is quite probable. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. Eldoret will be partly cloudy at 13 degrees. Also will experience rain in the afternoon with highs of 23. Kisumu at 20 degrees is partly cloudy, highs of 29. Taking a look then into Kakamega this morning, and we will see highs of, right now, partly cloudy conditions with 17 degrees and partly cloudy conditions leading into rain with highs of 26 and lows of 16. Mombasa is 26 degrees and partly cloudy. Rainy conditions later with highs of 29 and lows of 24. Malindi at 26 degrees is partly cloudy as well. Rain is coming soon. Highs of 29 and lows of 25. We'll take a look then into Kampala, where it's mostly cloudy at 20 degrees. Highs of 27 and lows of 20. Dar es Salaam is clear skies this morning at 23 degrees. That'll change later, though, with rains expected with highs of 29 and lows of 23. Johannesburg is a little bit warmer this morning at 9 degrees. It'll be clear skies going to a high of 22 and lows of 6. Lagos looks partly cloudy this morning, and that'll be the situation through the day with highs of 32. Taking a look then into Paris at 14 degrees, where it's clear skies, highs of 27 and lows of 13 today. London will be clear and sunny today as well with highs of 25. And wrap things up right now in New York, when it will be sunny at 15 degrees through the day, highs of 22 and lows of 14.
So what is happening in Uganda and Rwanda?
Uganda, 417 cases, 0 deaths. Rwanda, 377 cases, 0 deaths. And it's also been reported that there have been no new cases in Rwanda in the last 21 days. 0. So in terms of flattening the curve and curbing
have stopped the curve.
I'm telling you, these guys have stopped it completely. Completely.
0 cases in 21 days.
And Rwandans are saying, you know what? These guys knew what they're doing. Rwandans, as the people, the citizens, are saying, this move, we are very okay with it. Till today, Rwandans are still lining up to get into the bus park 1 meter apart. They're washing their hands in major places. They're sanitizing. They're wearing their face masks because they can see that whatever the government put into place 2 months ago is actually working.
What's happening with the borders? So you want to tell me that the border with DRC, the border with Uganda, there's nobody crossing in and bringing this virus?
There's nobody.
Because we know, obviously, there are cases of COVID in Rwanda.
There are people that are crossing, but people are not coming with the virus.
Oh, they're leaving it across
the border. I tell you, you come, you have it, my friend. You're not going. Where are you going? You're not crossing over.
Burundi has not shut its borders. Burundi is doing absolutely nothing to fight COVID-19.
But who in
Burundi shares a border with Rwanda. All right.
Who was tested positive for COVID in
the
Burundi?
President.
Exactly.
President himself and his wife is here.
Yes.
Undergoing treatment. Higher. DRC has done absolutely 0 on COVID-19. It's fighting other battles.
There's too
Ebola, blah, 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 blah. DRC shares a border with Rwanda. Uganda is fighting.
They also share a border.
Then they're sharing a border. But their truckers who are crossing over, they're being stopped, intercepted at the border.
They're not being allowed, my
Kenya
friend.
And Tanzania, when they live in Kenya and Tanzania, they're not crossing in with the virus. So those 2 other countries, Rwanda and Burundi, DRC and Burundi, there's nobody who's bringing that
into
virus into Rwanda.
Apparently not. These measures are stringent, my friend. The guys are not playing around. Within and outside the country, at the border where you're crossing over, they're not joking. They're saying this thing is not coming in. How else can you explain 21 days, still at 307 cases?
And there's still serious testing going on.
Still seriously testing. They've curbed this thing. There's the huge there's this huge possibility that people have had it in Rwanda, but the way in which they've been able to manage it by social distancing and people staying at home, etc., is that you got it, it's not spreading. You got it, you healed, and then you're fine. Until now, they're able to say, all right, slowly, we're going to release people back. And say, okay, we can get back to work. But if you're looking for a poster child of how this thing works, Rwanda.
Right here.
Yeah. Forget about all these long stories people are telling us about science. Okay, maybe not forget about them. I add a rider there. Not forget about them. But just here's an example of how it works. Here's an example of how it works. And again, you can't tell me that every single person who needed food in Rwanda was fed. But at least they took care of the people that said, look, we need something now. To the point that now people are able to go back and do that and work on their businesses.
Yep.
The messaging from the very beginning was very clear. What the problem was, what they wanted people to do, and for how long they wanted people to do it. There was no question, can we? No, we were clear. This is what you're going to do. You need food. We are going to bring it to you.
Yep. We know who needs food.
Yeah, we know who needs food. We're going to bring it to you.
Yeah.
So can I get... So now suddenly they're allowing public transport to get back. What are people doing? Lining up to wash their hands before they get to the bus. This past week, not 3 weeks ago, this past week, okay, we're going to allow public transport again, start operating within specific hours.
Yep.
You line up, you wash your hands 1.5 meters apart. And it looks like robots, but this is what they're doing.
And if you're going to work, it's only 3 days a week.
Yes.
And they have a way of ensuring that
Imagine.
if you have gone to work yesterday, you don't go
You're not
back
going tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine? They say Africans can't do things. There you go. It's possible.
Okay.
That's why 307. All these neighbors you're talking about.
Are they
how
having
many cases
as
are
much
they?
fun as we are?
You're enjoying yourself, aren't you?
They're not having. We will talk about this, comparing what those countries are doing and what especially our country is doing. So, our country, we are under curfew. We have some restrictions of movement. We have some restrictions of operation, right? But restaurants are open, and now restaurants and pubs, they're serving 2 sausages and a beer until late.
For the noses.
And we are seeing more and more people actually going to enjoy themselves in these places and then not observing all these measures.
It's just like the US.
We have seen it over the weekend. I mean, pictures emerging from many of these joints and clubs. People are just, having fun with one another.
People are not... Look.
People post
People
photos on social media.
Yeah, where I was.
Where they've met. Or even if they're having now parties at home. House parties are back. That whole issue initially of people reporting one another, that, I can hear a lot of noise here. People are now holding their parties at home.
Dead in the water.
People are coming and visiting and leaving. So where are we as a country? Is it should we continue like
It didn't
this?
hold. Here in Kenya, it didn't hold at all. Because from the beginning, it never did. That gel never set. So where you should have some serious jello, you just have still liquid.
No, let's be fair to ourselves. In the beginning, it tried to hold.
Where?
That's why neighbors were calling on their neighbors. Neighbors were
The
actually
day
calling
that
on police.
cessation of movement was announced, you had people climbing over a hill to get into and out of Nairobi.
Yeah, they were
The
going
next
home.
day. The next day
They
in
were
the
going
morning.
But around the following weekends, a couple of weeks, if there was somebody who's hosting a party, police would be called in.
People got tired.
Our neighbor is doing this, that,
Right.
the other. We have people who are doing a wedding ceremony somewhere in Kayole. Neighbors called the police on them.
But people got tired of community policing, clearly. People got tired. People got tired. It was time for people to get out. Whatever they had in terms of reserves in their homes had run out. People got tired.
So people are just
Will
living
I
their
start
life.
reporting my neighbor? Will I go and look for food? I beg. The story just became different. I need to have other things.
Live your life.
The resolve was never there from the beginning, unfortunately.
Live your life and
The
live mine.
unfortunate thing, though, however, now is that the cases are increasing. And remember what we said. It is not just previously, it was testing in quarantine centers. Now, this is targeted community testing.
Yep.
And you have people walking around with COVID.
Yep.
That's it. And this is where this testing is coming from now. Look at the cases we see in Kibera, almost 80 plus cases, right? An area which was never even called a hotspot. We talked about Isli, we talked about Kangwai a little bit. Now look what's happening in Kibera. They talked about Old Town, and then now that story has almost died. Look at what's happening in other areas like Kisauni. So it's jumping all over the place. This is unfortunately, and I'm telling you, I predict prophetess.
Prophetess Ndu.
June 6th is around the corner. If the curfew is lifted, there's going to be a mass exodus of people from Nairobi, and they're going to their rural homes.
It's not going to be lifted.
You think it's not going to be lifted?
Nope. What will happen is, and I'm predicting, is that the curfew hours are going to be pushed. Instead of starting at 7, it starts at 9. The cessation of movement from the major counties, Nairobi, Kilifi, Mombasa, Kwale, will still be in place. Maybe some counties like Kilifi, it may be lifted. But Nairobi will still have cessation of movement from outside the Nairobi metropolitan. That will stay. We've got to balance this thing, international PR versus local realities. Right?
Let's see.
So you want to travel out of Nairobi? Yeah. You find you. We know people are using Panya routes. The government is just telling us, is basically giving us hints.
We know it's happening.
It's giving us tips. If you want to go, just go. Use a Panya route though. Don't try and
don't use the main way.
Don't try and use the main way. Be clever. This reminds me. Yeah, I'll tell you the story of what happened in the 70s in this country with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and coffee and smuggling of coffee from Uganda into Kenya.
I want to hear this one.
A place called Kipchumbe. Was it called Kipchumbe or Kiptume? I'll remember. I'll tell you.
I know you want to say Kiplombe.
Not Kiplombe. It has another different name. The area for coffee.
I want to hear this story.
28 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning, Nduoko and Eric Latif. Our colleague C.T. Muga is still working from home. And we'll have more and more conversations. Remember, there was a coup at Fort Kenya yesterday. And there's accusations that this is emanating from a party that was held with no physical distancing in Isinya on Friday. Well, these are some of the conversation we're having this morning. Good morning.
It looks very good today. No traffic in most areas that we see. Everybody's still at home and taking it easy this morning. If anything does pop up, we'll let you know. On our major roads today, getting off of Mombasa Road and Thika Road as well, trying to get into the city. We're not going to have many problems whatsoever. People staying off the roads today. All right, so we'll let you know if anything does show up. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us in case you do see anything yourselves and help us keep it moving this morning.
Traffic.
So I'm getting my references for that story. So give me your copies of what is discussed in the days of serious coffee smuggling across Uganda into Kenya, and Kenyan traders benefiting from this and becoming millionaires and billionaires. And what is claimed that the president then said, he basically just said, well, you know what, we are going to fight smugglers. But quietly he's saying, well, if you're caught, just live your life, my friend. If you're caught, you're caught too bad.
Don't say we didn't tell you.
If you're caught too bad, but if you can hack it, you do it.
Wow.
Same thing is happening now. You want to smuggle yourself into your village, just smuggle yourself.
It's happening anyway.
If you're caught, well, too bad.
But we didn't. We told you.
Yeah, we just know we told you. Today's proverb, as we continue, start taking a look at the newspaper headlines. It's from Gambia. If your only tool is a hammer, you will see every problem as a nail. We've done this before, right? So I'll give you another proverb for today, because this one, just a couple of weeks old.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the headlines. Start.
All eyes on DP as State House hosts Madaraka. To attend or not, this year's will be a Madaraka Day with a difference for a besieged Ruto, even as unconfirmed reports indicate surprise talks between the president and his deputy. So it's going to be a virtual celebration this year, isn't it? The president is going to address the people from the State House walls, it would be. And of course, everybody's asking questions in terms of what would happen with Deputy President, William Ruto. The pair at the top of the country's political leadership have not seen each other in public in the last 1 month, with the last publicized meeting being the National Prayer Day held at State House in April. The whole of May was characterized by an all-out purge against Ruto's allies in Jubilee. Under fire politically, the DP ducked from major events, slowed down on his social media activities, and scaled down his hitherto unrivaled political activity. Ruto did not attend Labour Day celebrations at State House and is also said to have skipped several meetings of the National Security Council. He has also been absent from the Jubilee Senate Parliamentary Group meeting that resulted in the kicking out of his allies from influential positions in State House. Earlier this week, President Kenyatta issued a pointed tongue lashing to his deputy while at the same time justifying the ongoing purge in his party. And I quote, "Do not let your ambitions of tomorrow cloud what you must do today. What you do today is what will determine where you will be tomorrow. That's all, and it is as basic as that to me. I do not have much time to go, and so I cannot continue pleading. So if you feel you are not able to work in tandem with my agenda, please then, why don't you let me put somebody who is eager and keen to help me fulfill that agenda?" So that's what's going to be happening today.
We will see.
There will be celebrations, virtual celebrations, and it will be interesting to see if Deputy President William Ruto will be in attendance.
According to this story, the programs indicates that the Deputy President will invite the President to address.
To speak.
Yep. So if the Deputy President actually goes to State House, he's going to be there, and he'll go.
Okay.
Just go, stand there, say Mheshimiwa Rais.
Whatever needs to be
Just
said.
you're celebrating Uhuru, yeah, and then he sits down.
The optics will tell a different story, probably, but we'll just have to wait and see. Time will tell. In a few hours, we will see what will happen.
Yeah. So this year's Madaraka Day is also actually quite
interesting.
A reduced number of people have been invited to State House for this. We also saw earlier last week, the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government wrote to all the national government officials and told them, cancel any plans for celebrations in the counties. You know, this happens in every county headquarters. So no celebrations at county headquarters at all. People have been told, just watch your TV and listen to the radio. For what's happening at State House Nairobi, that's what's going to happen. Probably there's also not going to be a lot of military parade. I don't know whether there's going to be military parade. It'll be interesting to see whether the military will put up some form of, just a guard of honor, staying 1 meter apart.
Independence Day hour.
Yeah, and the president can come and inspect that guard of honor, and then the president will give his speech. I wonder whether Atwoli will be able to attend now that he lives outside the Nairobi metropolitan.
Things were happening outside the Nairobi metropolitan anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you clearing your throat?
The other headline, and I'm moving on swiftly.
Clearly.
The other headline in the Standard, a season of coups, turmoil at parties. Wetangula's ouster from the helm of Ford Kenya adds to month-long political thunderbolt that began with the removal of DP Ruto's allies from key House leadership posts, new surprise coalitions, and ODM's purge on rebels. Now, yesterday there was some drama in Nairobi. Some people meet and they say that they are the Ford Kenya National Executive Committee. And they say that there are some charges against their party leader, Moses Wetangula, and they therefore remove him from the leadership position. And they have somebody at the helm in an acting capacity.
By procedural vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever they did inside there, they met and they decided. So there are some charges. And Wetangula is no longer fit to be our party leader. Ghafla bin Gu, no sooner than.
That's what it
Punde
means.
si punde.
Ghafla bin bu.
Bin
vu.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Punde si punde. Wetangula himself calls another media event and he says, we have met as the National Executive Committee of the party, and this is what we've done. We have kicked out those people who are pretending that they're the leaders. We have kicked them out from the National Executive Committee of the party. And this is still my party.
Legal procedure too?
Rigo. At the same time, we see a statement from Amani National Congress. Now, this is a party that is not involved in this turmoil
At
at all.
all.
Okay, somebody is just sitting there as an observer, and they're like, "Hey, wait, guys, we need to talk about this. What is happening in Fort Kenya is unfortunate, and this comes out of a meeting that has happened in Isinya, and also this comes out of what we are seeing as a purge in other political parties. This is an attempt by one of the members of the NASA coalition to disrupt other political parties.
Right. Something else happened after that.
And then ODM responds. This man he called Musalia Mudavadi the ANC party leader. What party is he talking about? If he thinks that there's a member of the coalition that is disrupting, just come out and say who. Anyway, back and forth, long story short, a season of coups is underway, and there are games that are being played. Even what's the point of even?
So everything that happened yesterday, interestingly, because everything that happened yesterday from morning until evening just took us back to where we were when the dawn broke in the morning. So all this drama that you went through was for nothing, unfortunately. The way things were in the morning on Sunday, by the time the day ended, remained. There was a lot of drama in between, but status quo was maintained as it was at the crack of dawn on Sunday. I think that's very interesting.
You know, on August 7th,
So
August 2nd, 1982.
As much as things change,
at dawn
so do
of
they
August
remain
2nd,
the same.
1982, there was an attempted coup. By the end of the day, the president who was there,
Was still there.
August 1st, was also the president on August 3rd.
So
But it's there in history
that something happened.
that something happened.
Voila. And some people actually were made to pay
Yep.
for that one day where there was a bit of limbo
And it
politically.
changed the course of the republic.
So
It'll have an impact, this.
this will have an impact.
This will have an impact.
That's for sure.
Whether this man will be the party leader, whether he's not the party leader, whether... We'll be speaking to the Secretary General of the Amani National Congress, Barack Muluka, at 8 o'clock. We'll also try and reach out to the Secretary General of the ODM party to hear, this new tiff that's happening. We'll try and reach out to this Esiali Simiu and Wycliffe Wangamati, who is the Bungoma governor, and Wafula Wamunyinyi. And... yeah, this whole the Fort Kenya game was interesting. It was interesting to watch exactly what was happening in Fort Kenya.
It was quite.
Back and forth, and people saying I am the party leader, the other one saying I am the party leader.
All right.
What's the nation headline?
Two stories with a bit of a COVID twist. Let's start with the maybe ridiculous one. The Kotu Secretary General, Francis Atwoli, has dismissed reports a political gathering at his home flouted COVID-19 safety rules. I know we're going to be talking about this a little more later, but just as a rider to that conversation, Atwoli said his guests, who included governors, MPs, Devolution CS, Eugene Omalwa, and Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka, were tested for the viral disease before the meeting. So I don't know if it was at the point where, you go wash your hands before a meal. I don't know if the testing happened at that point, or if, a couple of days before this meeting, everybody went and got their test. But that remains to be found out. He said two medics, here we go. He said two medics were also deployed at his Kajiado home during the Friday meeting to ensure protocols in the war on the disease were adhered to. I quote now, "I am not a stupid man to invite people without considering the safety guidelines by the Ministry of Health. People were tested before they came in." So they were tested. Now, there's testing and there's screening. So we need to...
Unless Atwoli is telling us that mobile unit that was taken to Namanga
yes, at the door.
Was brought
at the
to
door, where at his gate, you get out of your vehicle, you're tested, they stick the swab down your throat, up your nose. This is what he said.
And you wait for 3 hours for the results
3
to
hours
come
at
out.
the gate.
At the gate.
For the results to
and
come out,
again.
then you're allowed in. This is what testing is. That's what I'm saying. There's a difference between testing and screening. Screening is the one whereby they take your temperature, they point it at your head, neck, throat, arm. They take your temperature and we find out, are you 36 and above or 36 and below? That's what they're looking for when they're screening. And then they ask you a few questions. Been outside this, that, the other place? No? Wearing a mask? That's screening. Testing is a whole different ballgame. This came against the backdrop of an uproar by some Kenyans who took to social media accusing authorities of implementing the rules selectively. So that's one story, and I know we're going to discuss it even more. However, there were pictures of individuals standing within close proximity of each other without masks.
Yeah.
Okay?
They were there without masks. I'm looking at the picture, actually. The governors, governors don't get COVID. So Governor Wycliffe Oparanya is not wearing a mask. Governor Wycliffe Wangamati is not wearing a mask. And then this is... people who are wearing a mask are not even wearing it properly. And there's Jirongo, who's not wearing a mask. But Jirongo is bankrupt. So there's also the issue of affordability here.
Of the mask. But Atwoli said that he had prepared, so that means you should have had extra masks there, Abi.
Yeah.
You would have been able to find
people.
one. Somebody
You're
could have
hosting
lent
people,
you one.
give them.
Yeah. If you can test them at the gate, you can sure as hell give them a mask to operate, can't you? During the press conference that we saw taking place, where they were all standing closely with one another, there was one of those governors wearing a mask. I sat there and I looked at that video and I said, you know what, I'm going to count. And so because we saw the clip coming back throughout the day on Friday and then even more on Saturday, I said, I'm going to count. One individual wore a mask. Mr. Atwoli himself was not wearing the mask.
No, we don't have to wear a mask. He was observing social distance.
Because he was in his house. Stay there, Joe. Okay. We're going to have that conversation, I'm sure. On the front page of the Daily Nation.
Yeah.
In the corner there, 31 test positive and then help with an exclamation mark. We have a prison outbreak. Dun, 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 dun. Cue music. Where is
Trying
Steve?
to play with the words. Prison break. Huh?
Health officials said yesterday that the 31 inmates at the Nairobi Remand and Allocation Unit had been sent to hospital for treatment. And the warders are uneasy as corona hits prisons. A wave of coronavirus infections is sweeping through the prisons. Yesterday, public health officials said the 31 prisoners at the Nairobi Remand and Allocation Prison had tested positive for COVID-19. They'd been evacuated to several hospitals across the country. 3 days ago, a prisoner at the Embu GK prison tested positive for the virus. In March, 2 cases were reported at Industrial Area Prison in Nairobi, and 42 others who had come in contact with them were quarantined. 2 weeks ago, Health Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman confirmed that 2 inmates at Industrial Area Remand Prison had tested positive for COVID-19. Yesterday, he confirmed that more inmates had been tested and that the Health Ministry was working tirelessly to contain the spread of the virus at the Industrial Area Remand facility. As at yesterday, Kenya Prison Service said that 80% it was 80% done with work on quarantine centers and remand facilities across the country, but may put up more in full-fledged prisons if the situation worsens. So there's a problem there. I think this is one of the areas that they highlighted when all of this kind of broke out. Okay, no pun intended. But it was that they wanted to make sure, because you have lots of people in one concentrated area, and they wanted to make sure that they could curb this. But we see this popping up now.
The government went immediately after, when that day it closed schools, also ordered no visits. Actually, no, it wasn't even that day. It was on the first day when you announced measures. No visits to prisons. All right? Prison warders, we know for most cases, prison warders live near the prison facility. So cases of COVID actually getting into prison are quite worrying. World Health Organization had already issued an alert to all countries urging political leaders to take heightened public health measures to protect the vulnerable prison population. And this is because prison populations have an overrepresentation of people with substance use disorders, HIV, TB, hepatitis B and C, compared to the general population. The rate of infection of diseases in such a confined population is also higher than among the general population. So prisons are basically those vulnerable areas.
We see this popping up now, and I think that here also we heard from the inspector that, they were going to make sure that there were any cases that came in. If there were petty issues, do bail bond that day. Don't allow them to come in. We don't want any new entrants into the system, whether it was jail, which is a short period of time, or then if you can clear those cases, get them out. If we're looking at petty things, these would have been served up bail immediately. And only serious crimes, then would you then have individuals then taken into custody. I don't know if those measures were kept, because now this is something that folks are worried about now. The Ministry of Health is seeing that this could spread.
I think to a large
they're
extent.
still finishing their quarantine facilities within the prisons. You understand what that means? That they're not done. This was something that should have been done in March. I can find that article if we have some time, because it was clear that this is the directive that was sent out, that these
set up quarantine centers.
Quarantine centers were to be set up specifically for this sector, and it was to be done within a week. 2 months later, I think we're still dealing with that. They hope that it will be done soon.
So, but these the remandees had just spent 21 days. These ones that tested positive, the 31, right?
They had just come in, right?
They had just spent 21 days in quarantine at the Nairobi Remand and Allocation Center, where they'd been admitted from various courts. So we are still, this is where now the issue of maintenance of law and order and the entire system is put to the test. Because courts have still been working, police have still been arresting people, putting them, and people are being taken to court, being remanded. Like we know, Mr. Kifo, who was arrested, is going through the criminal procedure, right? So he has to be remanded. When you're remanded by courts, you hand it over to the prisons authorities.
But these are the serious cases that we're talking
authorities-
about, right?
Yeah.
These are the courts are working more for these serious cases that we've been talking about.
But you see,
So we're talking
even
about
one
things like
serious
the
case
murder.
having testing positive and going to mix with the rest. That's where the issue is.
That's the issue.
So they're being taken into these isolations and the quarantine facilities, and then you're being tested from this quarantine facility. And I think this is where the cases were found. It's not that in the main prison, somebody has actually tested positive.
It's
people who
we're
are
finding
on
it's
their
where
way
there is
into-
movement. Yeah.
on their way into prison.
So it could be that the measures are being maintained, actually, where they said, look, only deal with serious cases, only have arrests for these serious cases of murder. And I believe it was some kind of rape and other violent cases like that. And then not just your petty crimes or your petty theft here and there, but fraud and whatever other
Yep,
cases.
yep.
Those are the ones that are being dealt with. So if we're seeing that there's an increase in these cases, then it's movement of these persons
It's this person
that are
actually.
going through the justice system. Then that's where we see now the increment of these cases from.
And the good thing is that they're being intercepted before they go and mingle with the larger prison population. I think this is very important to point out, because it clearly shows that when they were at the remand allocation center, this is where they were in quarantine. They got tested. Some were found to be positive, and now they have also been transferred and taken into another isolation facility for treatment.
That's
Still
interesting.
under the custody of the prison service.
Imagine how much worse it would have been if the courts were actually in operation. Because you have people moving in and out on a daily basis. Somebody who's
Coming
in
to
remand,
court.
for example, coming to court every day in the morning, going back in the afternoon or whatever. Imagine if that movement was taking place, and how many people are we having moving in a day throughout the numerous courts around the country.
Yep.
So I think it was a good move. I think Chief Justice was on point when he made that announcement, even before the rest of the country, where he said, you know what, we're going to stop this. And then if we're going to have cases being addressed, they will be addressed virtually. And I think that's going to go on for some time. Because if you see some of the movements, some of the greatest movements actually happen in this system. Largest amount of movement.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out.
So the residents of Kiambu County are up in arms.
They're not happy.
Especially residents of Limuru. They are raising concern after Tigoni Level 4 Hospital was turned into a COVID-19 isolation center. This has taken a toll on the residents who entirely depend on the hospital for surgical, maternal care and other in- and outpatient illnesses. So dire is the situation that residents suffering from other illnesses are unable to access and able to seek help as a result of the curfew and lockdown. This is complicated by the fact that the Kiambu County is home to most elderly people who are vulnerable to most diseases associated with the aged. A number of residents interviewed by the Standard said that they have been unable to get essential healthcare services because the hospital was closed in May. So this is one area where a hospital has basically been designated. This is where we are going to treat COVID-19 patients in Kiambu County, take them to Limuru Level 4. And then the community that has been accessing Limuru Level 4 wonders, so where do we go? So it makes us travel a bit further to access the same Level 4 facility in another area. and I think this is why also we saw Director General of Health, Amoth, coming up with new guidelines on how hospitals can have separate facilities that are dealing with COVID and another facility that's clearly dealing with everything else. So to address this whole fear of go to hospital and get COVID, they're saying if you go to a hospital, there's an entire wing that is only for COVID. And then the other wing is for other issues. Anyone with respiratory illnesses visiting hospital will have to be tested for COVID-19. These are according to the new guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health, stating that the tests will include children with pneumonia who will be prioritized for the coronavirus tests. These tests, according to the ministry, should not delay the patient from being attended to. The new measures are contained in the interim guidance on continuity of essential health services during the COVID-19 pandemic, which should guide resumption of normal services in hospitals as the country recovers from the pandemic. Okay. The guidelines signed by the Health DG, Patrick Amoth, cover children services, maternal, reproductive health services, non-communicable diseases, cancer care and respiratory illnesses, HIV, cardiovascular patients, immunization services, mental health, persons living with disabilities, and surgery. So what it says is that the precautions: 1 meter rule in the waiting area, patients encouraged to wait from outside until they are called, electronic transaction for payments, separate COVID-19 designated ambulances from those handling other patients, non-COVID facilities to have designated triage for patients with symptoms of respiratory illnesses, frequent disinfection according to WHO guidelines. Health professionals with underlying conditions are not to work in those COVID-19 facilities. And also reduce unnecessary interaction among healthcare workers. So basically what the government is saying is, all right, every facility now, you don't have to say it, you can come and mix, set up an entire facility or
on
department
one side, right,
that shows this is how we are dealing with COVID. It's already being implemented by private hospitals. We spoke to the Nairobi hospital CEO. He said they were working on that. I think they've already launched it. So there's an entire side that is dealing with COVID and COVID-related illnesses, and then everybody else is being treated. These are way for hospitals to try and bring people back, because hospitals are firing people.
This is true.
People are not going to hospital. We saw Marta the other day, Marta Misericordia, said the same. There's a story here of St. Mary's Mumia's Mission Hospital, which has sent 40 employees on unpaid leave as effects of the ongoing COVID-19 bite. The administration said operations have been seriously affected by the virus, making it unrealistic to maintain the staff.
Wow. It's a big deal. It is. And it's happening across the country. And unfortunately, we're likely to see more cases of the same happening over, if things remain, definitely things are not going to remain as they were, as they are now. It's likely that things will get worse, unfortunately. Because we still see, yes, that COVID is still here and still, wreaking havoc across economies, across countries. This is what is going on. This is the reality that we face. It's our hope that things get better, but we have to deal with the fact that, unfortunately, they're going to get a little bit worse before they do get better.
At that point. So we hope that they don't get very much worse.
Yeah, we can only hope.
Let's not get to the superlative of worst.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So today's proverb is going to be a reminder of a proverb that we've given you before. It's from the Gambia. If your only tool is a hammer, you'll see every problem as a nail. If your only tool is a hammer, every problem becomes a nail. You just want to hit it.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Smack it in or pull it out. Coming up to 7 o'clock, this is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning is Eric Latif at Nduoko. We are looking at what's been happening over the weekend. So we'll tell you exactly how your weekend has been and looking at the week ahead and what's happening. And then we'll also be discussing the party politics of Ford Kenya, basically the entire NASA coalition. Now that we dealt with Jubilee last week, let's deal with NASA this week. Good morning, 7 o'clock.
It's only going to take you about 20 minutes from Simba Cement to Mombasa Road in Kitengela to all the way down to Nyayo Stadium. I mean, it's great this morning. Namanga Road and then into Kitengela as well is flowing fantastically, and traffic in and outbound is looking quite good. A lot of people coming into the city and then getting off on Thika Road as is expected. Not much traffic today, and I know that people might be out later, and there's often the temptation to go a little bit faster than you normally would. You want to be careful, guys, because the roads being open means that people will go faster and probably throw some carefulness out the window. So please don't do that. We're not going to have much issues this morning, and I am saying that in all hope. Spice of MKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. In case something does happen, let us know. We can spread the word easy. You need some help somewhere, also let us know, and we can let other people know as well.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom.
Happy Madaraka Day from wherever you are. Thank you very much for waking up early, tuning in to Spice FM and listening to us. 94.4 in Nairobi, 102.5 Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, 96.0 Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi. Happy Madaraka Day wherever you are around the world. www.spicefm.co.ke and Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Other headlines, and then we'll come into Madaraka Day at about 7:15. And this morning we want to ask you whether you actually feel that we are independent. Do you feel like Kenya is really enjoying the fruits of independence? And this is what we say, the fruit of our labor, heritage of Kenya, heritage of splendor, and fruits of our labor. That's what we'll be discussing. So
on this day, reprieve from high unga prices as maize from Mexico is in to ease deficit. Kenyans should expect reprieve as an Okay, let me just start again.
Start from Kenya.
Kenya should expect Kenyans. Good Lord. Okay. Kenyans should expect reprieve from an anticipated hike in maize meal prices after the Millers Association said a consignment of maize from Mexico was on the way and would forestall a shortage. So we've been having a lot of this conversation recently with whether there are reserves, whether the available reserves are contaminated or not, whether there's going to be this 4 million bag import from different countries, whether the Ministry of Agriculture is going to buy maize from millers. I mean, it's been crazy. And the issue of then maize meal prices rising has come up because of the fact that the reserves or what is available in the country then was very little and not enough to go round. Okay? Whether that is actually a shortage or it is an artificial one is left to be found out. So there's maize coming in from Mexico. And it is after the government and the millers finally reached a consensus on import conditions. According to the chief executive officer of the Cereal Millers Association, Ms. Paloma Fernandez, we expect the first shipment of the yellow and white maize anytime from mid-June. It's expected to get to our mills by early July after all the formalities of discharging, offloading, handling and transportation to various parts of the country. The government has allowed the importation of 2 million bags of white maize for human consumption and another 2 million of yellow maize for animal feeds at 14% and 10% duty respectively. So maize is coming in. It will not be as expensive as it was before, or rather there will be a drop in prices because of this maize import. However long it's supposed to last, we do not know. You're frowning.
So you're saying
frowning.
that when maize arrives, unga is going to be cheaper?
Yes. Yes, now there'll be more in the market.
And it's going to be cheaper.
That's what they're saying. We can expect the prices to drop because of this, right? I know you want to ask, so how exactly does this happen? Why?
Yeah, you believe this?
That's what they're saying now. Whether
So
I believe
basically,
I believe it or not.
So market forces,
reporting what they've
an
told
open
you.
market, because market forces, there'll be an excess supply, and now demand will be met by the supply, and so prices are going to start stabilizing and getting cheaper.
Because there'll be more in the market.
Okay.
You see?
The maize that's coming is not paying the taxes.
10% and 14% duty respectively. So 10 on the animal feeds and 14 on the human consumption feeds.
So they're still going to pay.
Yes. But by virtue of the fact that there will be more,
But
you see
it'll
now
be
it's a
cheaper.
bit. You see now it's a bit high because there's only so much within the country, right? So it's going to come in and then it will go across the millers, and the millers then will be able to package this maize, and then it will be sold at a cheaper price because there will be more available.
Maize arrives mid-June, towards the end of June. We expect that discharge and everything and arriving to the millers July. So the earliest we'll start seeing a drop
Is August.
Is August.
Yes.
Around August, September,
There'll be a drop in
ugali
prices.
will start becoming cheaper.
Yeah. And also by that time, you see, it gives the local farmers, so I'm painting the picture for you. By that time, it gives local farmers, time. It will probably be getting into another harvest season right around then, around that time. So you see, they've timed it perfectly. The Ministry of Agriculture has done a fantastic job here. They've timed it perfectly because by the time that comes in, prices go lower, then farmers would have gotten to the harvest season, more maize then being available.
So this
Prices
just
will
cushions
drop.
the gap.
Yes, it does.
Okay, let's hope to see that happen.
I know you can hear the conviction in my voice.
Starting
So-
this Friday, if you go to the beach or you go to any public
Which
park.
beach? In Kenya?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
Yeah. If you go to any beach, if you go to any forest or conservation area, if you go to a national park, you will not be allowed to use disposable plates, cups, straws, spoons, forks, and water bottles. Single-use plastic. Why? Because the new regulations come into effect. Ban on single-use plastic products in all protected areas is coming into effect on Friday. This is after, in June 2019, President Uhuru Kenyatta banned the usage of single-use plastic products in all protected areas 2 years after the country banned the use of polythene carrier bags, all right? On the 28th of May, the government urged tourism stakeholders and wildlife conservationists to adhere to the ban on single use of plastics in all the protected areas. Now, the CS for Tourism and Wildlife, Najib Balala, has said that this is coming into effect on June 5th. The government is mandated to assure and provide a clean and healthy environment to all Kenyans, and through Article 69 of the Constitution, eliminate all processes and activities that degrade the environment. So this is coming into effect. Balala has said it goes into effect on the 5th of June. This is Friday. From that on, this thing of people just using single-use plastics, because it's common. And those who do the beach cleanups, those who also go to the national parks or to parks, even Karura, Boretam, and the rest, you go and find people are having parties or people are having a picnic, and you've come with just the plastic cups, plastic plates, plastic spoons, plastic forks, and you use them and just dump them there. So this is no longer going to be allowed. I think it's a good thing. The progress of banning plastic is something that Kenya ought to be commended for.
Yeah. When it started, it was a bit uncomfortable, right?
Yep.
People said, look, this is the
How
life
are we
that
going
we've
to
been,
be
how are we
carrying-
going to carry our goods. But this is an example whereby it's not a conversation that we are having. We can see the negative effect of using this material on the environment, on even the economy. And then just those two things alone were enough to say it's not a question. There's a certain kind of plastic, we're not going to allow it to be used, especially against the backdrop of tourism being such a big thing in this country. What do people come to see? They're not just going to hang out in Kenya. They come to look at the front, the beachfront that you have, come to see the wildlife, and wildlife, people forget, is actually below the surface of the water. People actually go under the water to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And we've also seen around the world that, this refuse actually is causing damage to the wildlife.
Yep.
So to say, in order to save one, we have to get rid of something. And I actually say I agree with you. I think we actually must commend the operation and how it happened, because there's a notice. I think it was about 90 days that people were given.
There was an entire, notice period given, and then you were told from this
it
the 1st of June or
you stop.
No more use of polythene.
Yeah, and people stopped.
There were complaints. The manufacturers had come and said, you know what, you should have allowed us because we had just imported and set up machines. So I told, all right, Shauriano, my friends. And we got used to it.
I think so. I watched a documentary called Bag It, and I think it's actually something that people need to watch because you get a real touch on what this kind of plastic does to the environment. And people would say, well, what are we really thinking about? Africa, we have too many problems. Is it animals we'll start to think about? But then you see the effects on the environment, and then the effects down to somebody's life, one individual, the unit, how it actually would affect you as a human being. And you finish that and you want to actually get rid of any plastic that you have.
The fact that we consume these animals.
This is what I'm saying.
And we're telling the animals to consume the plastic.
Yeah.
How much plastic is found in an animal, in the meat now,
that you're eating.
It's something. I mean, something that should be considered.
Yep.
So the ban comes into effect this Friday. Meanwhile, some guys who have looked at this earth and decided, too much, took off. They left Earth. They're like, I can't take this anymore.
I was wondering what rocket you were
Two
on.
people.
But okay.
They looked at this earth, like, COVID-19, America started with racism,
corruption,
got into a rocket. They're now observing us from up there, from space.
I think actually it's not so bad up
Yeah,
here.
they're looking at us from up there, space, and saying, what I've left down there, guys,
Up here is much
is
better.
serious. SpaceX took off after a journey of about 19 hours. Docked into the International Space Station last night. It was a colorful thing. And it's a first in many ways. Not just the first because it's been 8 or 9 years since the last space shuttle mission from the USA. Beyond that, this is the first one that is actually being done by a private entity. Come up with a rocket and is managing that entire program. All right, so SpaceX Dragon capsule carrying the 2 NASA astronauts docked yesterday with the ISS, the first time a crewed U.S. spacecraft has performed the feat in nearly a decade. Soft capture is what we're calling the moment of first contact with the ISS. So these guys are going to be there for a period that they also don't know. They've been told, you just go, first of all, get there. When you come back, that's a conversation you'll have another day.
Isn't that just the height of self-actualization, isn't it? I mean, Elon Musk, what does he do? You want to look at the business that he's been involved in, which is...
This one, there's the electric cars.
And to say we've crossed barriers. We've done so many things here on Earth. Let's look at what we can do.
Let's see what we can do.
Different stratosphere. I mean, this is epitome of self-actualization to say, actually, you know what? All these other things that people are battling with here, grappling with here, rudimentary levels of business and innovation and creativity, let's take it up to another level, literally. And they've been able to do that.
And they've done it.
Yeah,
they've done it. It's a good thing. And it's a positive story.
I think so.
It's a very positive story to see a company, an organization decided this is our focus, our mission. And over the years, what they've been able to achieve. But this was not the first time that their space vehicle was actually going to the ISS. It's been taking goods to the ISS. So there have been good missions, cargo missions to the ISS. This weekend was the first one that they actually carried human beings and took them to the ISS successfully. And we're waiting for them to come back. And from that point on now, they commercialize it. And you can book.
You can also go.
You
book
can also
to go to Mombasa.
Yeah. That thing of saying, I love you so much, I'll take you to the moon. You can no longer just use that as a line. Someone will hold you to it. When are we going?
I love it.
When are we going? You said you're taking me to the moon.
Yeah.
When? A Japanese billionaire has booked to be the first one to actually go to the moon.
You see?
Yep.
They're going.
The man is called Yasaku Maezawa. He's a Japanese billionaire. He has booked a voyage around the moon aboard the Big Falcon spaceship, fully reusable, two-stage vehicle composed of most powerful rocket booster ever built, and a spaceship designed to carry up to 100 people. 100 passengers. They will go there. So the mission, lasting about a week, the journey will come as close as 200 kilometers to the moon's surface before returning to Earth. The average distance from the Earth to the moon, 384,400 kilometers. The 42... Man is 42. 42. He's a billionaire.
You're stuck on that, right? Yeah. The story was... Focus, Eric. Focus.
42 years old. He's a billionaire. He's 42. I'm here working... 42-year-old art collector and entrepreneur. He collects art.
Eric, focus. Focus.
This guy collects art.
And he's a billionaire.
And he's a billionaire.
Yeah, we get it. But he's
from collecting art.
No, it's just one of the things that
entrepreneur
he does.
Says he'd invite up to 8 artists to join him in space. Wow.
Wanna go?
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. This will be it. 100 people can actually go to space in one mission.
Yeah. Makes you happy, doesn't it?
It will be quite interesting.
There's a story I got to look at here. I know you want to take a break.
Yes.
But...
Look at that one.
After or before?
Look at it now.
I'm looking at it. I'm speaking on it.
Tell us.
Schools ordered to refund co-curricular activity fees. The Ministry of Education has directed schools to refund the unspent co-curricular funds following their closure in the wake of the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country. A circular dated the 28th of May, signed by Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang and dated the 28th, well, obviously, puts the deadline for the refund as June 10th. The communication comes at a time when schools are struggling financially following the indefinite closure, with some reporting that their bank accounts are running dry. The refund is for the activities that did not take place, Dr. Kipsang said, adding the government wants to use the money in other areas. Dr. Kipsang says the government, through the State Department of Early Learning and Basic Education, dispersed funds to schools in March, just before the pandemic found its way into the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered all learning institutions closed thereafter. Currently, there is uncertainty regarding when schools will open, with various leaders and education stakeholders asking the government not to take a rushed decision that could put learners at risk. Now, the government wants that money that they gave you for these activities back. Tell me if you actually think this refund is going to happen.
Why not?
You didn't hear that schools are saying their bank accounts are running dry? Then the money that you gave them early March, suddenly you want them to give it back to you.
Yeah.
Where? They don't have it. You think they still have it? You think they were keeping it in their accounts waiting for that request to come from you?
But you see, just like City has told us before, if money has actually come for you to buy desks, you cannot use it for anything else apart from buying desks. And what the ministry is saying is we sent you stuff for co-curricular activities. That means it's a vote for co-curricular activities. You should not have spent that money at all. You had no way of spending that money. So, send it back.
There's scandal brewing in here. This one, you just know.
We won't rudisha pesa yangu.
Schools are required to rechannel the money to the State Department for Early Learning and Basic Education. They even put the account number 1,038,4263 at the Central Bank of Kenya, Haile Selassie branch, no less. Return the money. Not a question, a demand. June 10th, next week.
Aye. Okay. Okay. If you say so.
That's Kipsang said, not me.
Money will be returned. I think it's very important that everybody recognizes that money will be. By the time Kipsang is saying this, he knows you cannot have spent this money. However, why must you ask for the money?
Well, I think it's further indicative of the fact that schools are not about to open anytime soon. If there was a likelihood that schools would open, I don't think they would be requesting for this.
So yeah, there's no point of keeping this cash lying in an account when you can bring it back.
Channel it to us. We have other things to do with it at this point.
Makes a lot of sense.
So many things are being said through this. Schools are not opening anytime soon. This money can be used for something else. It can't be sitting there idle. So
bring the money.
Yep.
20 minutes after 7, this is The Situation, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up, www.spicefm.co.ke. Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can join the conversation as well on Instagram, Spice of MKE. Call us 0719 012600. That's 0719 012600. Today, being the 1st of June 2020, is our 57th Madaraka Day. Are you feeling like we have, lived up to the ideals of our Independence Day? Good morning.
Let's look at how this may have changed a little bit. It's still partly cloudy in Nairobi at 14. We're looking at high of 25 today. And in Nyeri, where it's partly cloudy, we see highs of 23 throughout the day. Nakuru will see some rain as we go out west, highs of 25. And in Eldoret today, also will experience rain showers in the afternoon with highs of 23. Kisumu is going to be partly cloudy. It's currently at 20 degrees. We'll see highs of 29. Kakamega at 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 26 with the showers that will come in the afternoon. Mombasa at 26 degrees, we'll see highs of 29 with showers later on in the day. Showers already started in Malindi at 26 degrees. It's going to continue through the day with the highs of 29 and lows of 25. All right, let's take a look into Kampala, where at 20 degrees it's partly cloudy. We'll see highs of 27. Dar es Salaam at 24 degrees. We'll see highs of 29 with showers later in the day. All right, down in Johannesburg at 8 degrees. It's clear and sunny conditions all through. It's warming up a little bit today at 22 the high and a chilly low of 6. In Lagos at 26 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions with highs of 32 and lows of 24. All right, for now, let's look quickly into Paris. We're at 14 degrees. It'll be clear skies all through. It'll be very warm today for Paris at highs of 27 and lows of 14. London at 13 degrees will be clear skies all through, highs of 25 and partly cloudy conditions through the day. We'll wrap things up in New York, where Tuesday, or rather Monday, will be clear skies for the Big Apple at 14 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 13.
Good morning. Happy Madaraka Day today, being the first day of June 2020. It's the day that Kenya attained internal self-rule. It's a day of our independence. What happened on this day? On June 1st, 1963, at the steps of today's Harambee House, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was sworn in by Governor Malcolm MacDonald as Kenya's first Prime Minister. Shortly after, Mzee Kenyatta, Oginga Odinga, Tom Mboya, and James Gishuru, the doyens of KANU, drove off in an open car to the waving, dancing, and cheering crowds. A new nation was just born in a new month, was about to be born in a few months' time. Madaraka Day marked the day that Kenya's constitutional journey towards independence gained momentum, and also marked the time when the self-rule constitution came into force. So this is the day that we attained the self-rule, okay? June 1st, 1963. Then December 1963, that's when we got the full mandate, all right, of Kenya becoming a unitary state. So there was a whole issue of the constitution journey now, and then 1963 December we became now properly, and then the following year in 1964 we became a republic. But this is when we got internal self-rule. We had a prime minister who was now the head of government. Of course, the queen was still the head of state. But throughout that journey, there are those that have said, what exactly have we seen? Have we lived the promise of independence? Have we attained it? At that point, when we were gaining independence, and the then president was saying that what we ought to do is we are looking to fight three things that he actually identified: extreme poverty, ignorance. This is lack of education, right? And the third one was what?
You said extreme poverty, lack of education. You just said it.
Yeah, there's a third one.
Okay.
It's early morning, I'm forgetting. There are three and they're very common. Vitu hivi vitatu. Kupigana na ujinga, umaskini. All right.
Okay.
You're listening in and you want to remind me, please. 0719-012-600. That journey, every time we're celebrating, our independence, or even looking at our Jamhuri Day celebrations, Madaraka and Jamhuri Day, the question still keeps coming up. Have we really gotten there? Are we free?
I think it needs to
Are
start
we independent?
from what? I think that's the question a lot of people are asking. The thought or the idea was that it was free, looking at freedom from colonial masters, looking at freedom then from the British and everything that they brought along with their style of government, with their forced culture, across the board. Really, Kenya being free from that, or any other nation that was colonized in whatever way. So is it freedom from that? Or is it then freedom from the many ties that came along as a result of colonization?
Self-determination is something that was key. Remember, that time the government was being run by the colonizer. And the local Kenyans were not having the opportunity to actually have a say in the government. Although we can argue that there was the Legislative Council, which had, for some years before independence, brought in some more Africans like Moi and the rest had joined the LegCo. But government was being run by outsiders, not locals. So now this is the time when locals were actually saying, we have our prime minister who is a Kenyan, who is the one who's running the government, and the government is going to comprise of African cabinet ministers, or even if they're not African, they have been picked by this person who is one of us. And so we have that kind of independence. So the decisions that are being made from the top are being made by us. It's not decisions that have been made in the UK and then they've just been passed down to a governor here, and the governor is just executing or implementing the wishes of the prime minister in the UK. So this is where the differences come in. But have we completely unshackled ourselves from what was happening then?
Frighteningly, even as much as I wouldn't want to give, I think the answer for me on so very many levels is no. We must also understand, however, that there was a certain element of freedom that was being lived as a reality before the entrance of the colonialists. There was rule. There were certain pockets of people who would then come to be called Kenyans later, who were already self-governed. Right? There were certain things that were happening. There were avenues and agreements of trade that were going on amongst people. There were different cultures that had already taken place. There were forms of government.
This is in the colonial era.
This is pre-colonialism.
Okay.
Before
the colonialists
came.
Yes.
There was a way in which people
lived freely.
Okay? So there was freedom pre-colonialism. Now, come colonialism, and after they had established whatever they wanted to establish, there was now the geographical demarcation, then of lands now that we come to know, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, whatever. Now, within the confines of those freedoms then were taken away from the people. So, we ask ourselves, have we achieved freedom? The question is, what freedom then are we speaking of? To go back to the freedom where...
No, to erase the borders.
To erase the borders, that is not going to happen. So you would say, for eternity, the answer would be no. But freedom from then what people came to know later on, even after the colonialists came into place, is that kind of freedom attainable? I think we're still dealing with very many ties of colonialism.
Let's open up this conversation. 0719-012-600. You can call in. Wilberforce calling in from Nyamira. Good morning.
Hello, Eric.
Hi, Wilberforce. Good morning. Please switch off your radio.
Very fine. I have.
Right.
Yes, my name is Wilberforce from Nyamira.
Happy Madaraka Day, Wilberforce.
Happy Madaraka Day, Spice FM. My first time to call in.
Asante sana, karibu.
But a very good, very serious fan since Spice FM was born.
You're a good man.
Now, I want to begin by congratulating what you do and remind you that the third thing that we were to be relieved from was ugonjwa.
Ah, yes.
Ah, fantastic.
Disease.
Yes, it was njaa, umaskini, na ugonjwa.
Okay.
Yes. That's all I had.
Asante sana, Wilberforce. Now, do you feel like we are living the promise of independence?
To me, to a very little percentage, sir.
Why? Why so?
That I'll tell you for free. Furthermore, okay, I'm also a person with a disability. And I'll tell you that as far as I'm concerned, our independence is mostly on paper, not practical. Why do I say so? When our leaders stand to speak about independence, it will be colored. It will be made to look nice. But come down to the ordinary mwananchi.
Yeah.
This is where life has been. Life pushes you to a corner. Things are expensive from day one.
Yeah.
Today I'm reading on the Standard, and the headline is it the Standard? There's a place of that headline that prices of flour to go down when Mexican maize come in.
Yes.
Then what are we calling independence? From hunger, 57 years.
Yeah, if we still cannot be food secure.
The other time you saw us crying because now Tanzania was closing the borders. We couldn't get maize from them.
Yeah.
A few moments ago, we had our own farmers were crying. Their maize are rotting. Their milk was being poured.
Yeah.
Among other things, today we're talking about the vulnerable groups in this country. Talk about the persons with disabilities. Talk about the elderly.
But these ones, you can point these ones out, Wilberforce, and say maybe it's an issue of how we are governing ourselves, not necessarily because we are not independent.
Now, what then is independence? If we are unable to, if governance is a problem.
Yeah, but we have a choice. Yes. We can change this governance. Unlike before, unlike in the colonial days when you had no say in who's governing you. So whether they were doing a good job, whether they were doing a bad job, you are stuck with that. But now you have a choice.
The problem is there is a choice. What the governance is doing, or what the elite is doing, I'm sorry to use the word elite, is that those who know don't want to know. Like, they are riding on the ignorance of the people of Kenya. That's why you will choose Eric today. He messes. Next year he comes back. And we choose him again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Wilberforce. Have a good day, Nyamira.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. The question we are asking ourselves this morning is, are we enjoying the fruits of our independence? Joshua from Nandi County, good morning.
Yes, this is Joshua Lagat from Lelmoko, Nandi County.
Namna gani, Joshua Lagat?
Sabi sana. Happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka Day to you.
Happy Madaraka Day to you.
Yes, good.
So, do you feel like we're enjoying the fruits? Are we enjoying the fruits of our independence, Joshua?
Not so really.
Why do you say so? We've lost him. Joshua, you can please call back and let us know what you think. Why you're saying you don't feel like we are really enjoying the fruits of our independence. This is the question that we are asking this morning. Are we living the promise of independence? 57 years of independence in the country. This is what we are celebrating today, being the first day of June 2020. It's Madaraka Day. Are we independent? Are we? If you feel that we are, tell us what do you think. If you feel that we are not, tell us why you think that we are not. This is 27 minutes to 8 o'clock. The Situation Room continues. Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter. You can post your comment there as well as call us in 0719-012-600. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. All roads in Nairobi should be leading to State House for about 50 people. And the rest of you, stay at home.
Well, those roads are not quite yet leading to State House. Most people are still at home, is what we see today. Not much traffic on the roads today. Everybody seems to be saying, well, one more day to be able to relax and see what the week has in store for us this month. All right, so yeah, like we said, coming off Mombasa Road, Thika Road, we're looking at all parts of Nairobi. We don't have much of an issue today whatsoever with traffic, and I'm not even going to pretend that it's there. Spice FMKE, in case you do see something, let us know on Twitter, and we'll be able to spread the word. But for now, it looks really good, guys. Traffic is not going to be one of the problems that you're going to have to face today.
Good morning. Welcome to The Situation. If you're just joining us, 94.4 Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 Kisumu, Nakuru, 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 Nyeri, Malindi, 97.7. Are we enjoying the fruits of our independence? That's the question we're asking ourselves this morning. Benjamin calling in from Narumoru. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka Day to you, Benjamin.
How are you?
Salama kabisa. Do you feel
now,
like we are living the promise?
Story, let me first of all set something straight.
Yes.
That story of yours on coffee smuggling. The place was Chef Kube.
Yes, Chef Kube.
Chef Kube.
Now, can you tell us the story? In fact, I was still lining up my sources. You'll be source number one, Benjamin. What was happening in Chef Kube?
Okay, and then what the late president said in the local language.
Yep.
Something like kanyoniga kwa hize na wono dole wako. Loosely translated, it means my small bird hide just a little bit.
Yep.
But if you found out,
you're on your own.
Then you are not mine. You are not mine. You don't belong to me.
Yep.
And then a story is told of a bank manager then who on Saturday afternoon after the banks closed went to the bank vaults, took some money, went to Chef Kube, did his business, and on Sunday evening he brought back the money. So on Monday morning, everything was intact, but he had made his money.
Wow.
That is the story. Have a happy Madaraka Day.
Thank you very much, Benjamin.
Bye-bye.
So the three things that we were fighting, that's what Mzee Jomo Kenyatta said upon independence. He said our government will focus on eradicating poverty, ignorance, and disease. All right? Vitu tatu. Say them in Kiswahili. Diseases,
ugonjwa,
poverty,
maskini,
ignorance.
I'm trying. Ujinga.
Yes.
I'm doing well.
You are doing very well.
Thank you.
We're asking ourselves this morning, are we living the promise of independence? 0719-012-600. David is responding via social media. He says, it's not all doom and gloom. A lot has been achieved, but we have a long way to go in terms of poverty reduction, universal education, and affordable healthcare. So a lot has been done, and we still have a long way to go in attaining this. But David, 57 years later, this is an entire generation come and gone, and we're still talking about the same things on what we can do to attain universal education, universal healthcare as well. Fighting disease. If we are talking about fighting disease, that's where universal healthcare comes in. So we still have a way to go, a long way to go, but it's not all doom and gloom. Mwalimu Irongo Amos.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Madaraka Day, Mwalimu.
Happy birthday. Habari zenu hapo lakini.
Salama kabisa. Did you say happy birthday?
Oh, it is Madaraka Day. I am just Okay, nilikuwa nataka kukuambia kwamba
yes.
The ignorance was called ujinga wa kutojua. Yeah, they called it ujinga wa kutojua, and then there were those two. But
why did it have to be classified as to be explained? Ujinga wa kutojua.
Okay, I think Kiswahili was also growing that time because if somebody had simply said ujinga, it would have simply meant ignorance.
Yeah.
But ujinga wa kutojua, I think they wanted to say that those people have not been exposed probably to education or to some other Western behavior.
Okay.
And I think that's where our problem came from.
Okay.
Because the interpretation of that meant that our political leaders took exactly what the colonial people were doing to us, and they have all along separated themselves from us like cream does on milk. So all these years, to be very sincere, there is nothing to show for it.
Really?
In fact, the best we have done is to add another one on top, this monster called corruption. So it's one of the things, again, now we are fighting because people have gone into the habit of stealing public land, public resources, everything, which should all actually be used to eradicate these others we are talking about. So if somebody says that we have moved a step, we have schools and so on, we have hospitals, the truth is that every other place, every other country is doing the same. Yeah. But we should be very, very much ahead of where we are today. Had it not been that the government of Kenyatta and the subsequent ones just decided to behave like the colonial master. In fact, they wanted to eat, to own property just way.
Just like the colonial master.
Yes, because the history shows, and I will be forgiven to say this, that at the point of getting independence, independence, in as much as we fought for it, the Kenyatta administration, the political leaders led by Kenyatta, did not actually get independence for us. It was given to them on account of, we will give you this if you do this. Yeah. Because when they were in Lancaster, all of us can remember that Kenyatta drafted his government, the ministers, and then he was told, no, you must drop Oginga from here. So later on, Oginga was to be made vice president when they come back to Kenya. And then you realize that the same Kenyatta continued with the, okay, let us have settlement schemes, let us have all this, but these settlement schemes were finally sold. So in short, I want to say that we lost it a long time ago. It's only Kibaki who tried to build infrastructure here and there. And the current one is the current administration has also run around doing things which are not beneficial. And sometimes we feel that tunakopesha pesa so that it can do some other things, not what we can.
Not what it's intended to do. But Irongo,
yes, sir.
If we look back at everything that you've explained, right?
Yes.
All those governments that you've described have governments that have been elected by Kenyans.
Yes.
Not governments that have been imposed upon Kenyans.
Yes.
The journey, if we look at, yes, we have had a long and arduous journey, but we have gotten to a point where we are talking about literacy levels are very high.
Yeah.
If we talk about access to healthcare, yes, we are not where we are supposed to be, but 57 years later, we have considerable improvement in terms of access to healthcare.
I'm in agreement.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
But you see, what my point is this, that in as much as we've reached where we have reached, all of us remember that at independence, we were at bar with the Asian tigers.
Yeah.
So where we are is not where we're supposed to be. In fact, average in so many countries are where we are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my point.
Thank you. I get your point. Thank you very much, Ron.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Have a good day in Kisumu.
Mnafanya kazi nzuri and we like it here.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600, 0719-012-600. Are we living the promise of independence? 57 years of self-rule. 57 years of Kenyans electing their own government. 57 years of Kenyans putting their government in check and calling accountability and demanding direct accountability. 57 years of doing all those things.
Have you been able to do it? I mean, just look at the struggles that people are dealing with right now. To say that, okay, you want a nation, geographical area, the people, to be free from the shackles of colonialism.
Yep.
From the colonial masters to be able to say, let go of the reins of dealing with this area, give it back to us as the people, so that we can do it for ourselves.
We can govern it. We can govern ourselves.
Right. Those things that you've talked about. Good leadership, governance, accountability, responsibility of resources that have been put in the hands of a few to govern over millions of people. Has it been done? Are Kenyans right now saying that we're actually, of the things that we're begging to be free from, are we free from those things?
You're saying that we're still being colonized by a cabal.
Yeah.
of neo-colonialists.
Yes, it hasn't changed. We must understand a lot of people, and it's not just in Kenya.
Yep.
A lot of people who fought for independence were, on one hand, fighting for independence for a nation, but at the same time, were fighting for independence for them to also have for themselves as individuals what they saw the colonialists having
just
for
wanted
themselves.
to take over.
Absolutely.
Joshua in Nandi, you're back.
I'm back again.
Yes. You were dropping a point here. What were you saying?
Yes. We really vote for independence.
Yep.
But more families vote than other families.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the 4 families of Kenyatas, Mois, Okingas, and Givagis. Those are our new colonizationists. Sababu ukiona tukitaka kupigania kiti cha juu power ina rotate against those 4 families. So tumepata kweli uhuru.
So power at the because of power at the helm is basically the first president was Jomo Kenyatta. The current president is his son. Then we had Moi. Then we had Kibaki, and now you're bringing in Jaramogi, who was a vice president. Then let's also bring all the other vice presidents, including our current deputy president, William Ruto.
William Ruto has been kicked off.
Also, you're saying it doesn't matter.
Unaona sasa mwenye ananyemelea ni sani ya Moi, Moi. Sasa unaona bawa kwenda nje kwa hiyo families ni ngumu. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi jifunia ati tumepata independence.
Kijana wa Malo, Amudi Awori.
Let me don't go.
Kalonzo Musyoka.
Musyoka wapi? Alifikiria anavitia katikati, lakini alivitia katikati akaenda wapi? Hakuna. Sasa hawa ndio watatucolonize. Kumbe peperusha wabeberu ndio hawa wakuje imbawa ili watu nyanyase.
So in your view, Joshua,
yes,
what is it that would be a milestone that signifies to you that we have attained independence?
Watu waje tupiganie kiti chochote. Si ati rotate kwa hiyo prominent families.
So if somebody outside these families becomes president, then we have attained independence.
Yes, of course.
Even if that person is Martha Karua or Peter Kenneth.
From Hello?
Hello.
I'm Joshua Lagat from Lelmokwa, Nandi County.
Asante sana, Joshua. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. That's the number to call in. Our friend Karaoke in Wakulima Market, Nakuru. Good morning.
How are you guys?
Hi, Karaoke.
Happy Madaraka
Good morning.
Day,
Happy Madaraka
Karaoke.
Day.
Happy to you guys. Why is 10, by the way? I have not heard of her.
Who?
10.
10 was a guest host last week.
Uh-huh.
Last week, Elisha.
Okay.
She's listening in. She's working from home.
Okay, I want to comment on what Joshua said.
Yes.
He has talked of the big family.
The dynasty.
The Moi family,
yes.
Kenyatta family, and in fact, Odinga family.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that he has missed a point somewhere by mentioning Kibaki. Because Kibaki does not belong to that dynasty. Remember, in 2002, when all old workers, I remember everybody was behind Kibaki in 2002. Remember that?
Yep.
But just because he has that ill feeling, Uhuru Kenyatta, they were still pushing for the dynasty, take away the leadership. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
What am I saying? What I'm saying is this. As we have said, by getting somebody else, as you have said, Mr. Eric, that maybe we shall have, we shall get ourselves away from dynasty. That's not the issue here. The issue here is that we choose a person not in capitalizing rather, that if we elect somebody from the dynasty, we shall be free. That's not the case. Kibaki, we elected Kibaki from nowhere. Remember that. And when he came into power, he put down structures that even today we are remembering, despite the fact that he just ruled for only 10 years and went away. Point number 2, Mr. Eric. Remember, when we passed Section 2A, disallowing multipartyism, remember that, Mr. Eric? we sacrificed so hard since 1982 to go back to multipartyism. Remember that?
Yeah.
We lost life, property, and everything. And today, I don't think changing the constitution will give us any ugari on the table. I don't think that, Mr. Eric.
What will help?
We are saying, what we are saying,
Yep.
let somebody come to power, somebody who has the interest of Kenyans at heart, not like what we are having. We have heard from the comment, those who are confident today, saying that the current president has done nothing. In fact, he has been saying things he cannot even fulfill. Remember that? We need somebody like him. But despite the quietness in the state house, yes.
Who puts leaders into office? Is it not Kenyans?
What I say?
What I'm saying is, because the question here is whether we are living the promise of independence. If Kenyans have a way participating in elections, are the ones who actually elect their own leaders into office, then that whole issue of saying, and I hear you when you say that maybe you're feeling disenfranchised or even disillusioned by the kind of leadership we've had in the last 57 years, Kenyans have a choice to elect somebody who will be better.
Let me tell you, Mr. Eric, ever since independence, have you ever had Kenyans given a chance for, let me say, the government sending people to enlighten Kenyans on how we are supposed to go in terms of elections? Have you ever had, apart from very small bits, so that we can all understand what they meant by maybe election? Most of us go to election without even knowing what is the importance of that election, what is the importance of choosing which person or which person. That's how it is in this country.
So Karaoke, I hear you saying that then Kenya has not experienced freedom as it should have.
In fact, a very small bit in terms of freedom. If that's what you are saying, Doka. In fact, we have experienced very little. I remember 1982, when I was still in school. As I was fighting to continue my education career because my single mom could not do it. I remember I went home thinking that I will ever make it back to school. But when I was trying in different ways to get myself back to school, I remember I was arrested and beaten nearly to death by the police forces. What am I saying? I'm saying this because during the days of independence, when we got independent as a country, I remember the president, or rather the laid down procedure on our country, on how to go about our country so that we can make it great. One was to educate our people. And two, to complete that, we were supposed to go to school free without even paying anything. And if you are to pay, then you pay something that you are able, that parents are able to pay for their children.
We hear you,
but that was not the case.
We hear you. Thank you very much. Have a happy Madaraka Day nonetheless. Tawet Samuel in Eldoret, good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you?
Good morning.
I would like to put across my point like this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Your question you've asked there is that we have had elections since independence, isn't it?
Are we living the promise of independence?
We have really lived it behind. My point is, every time we make an election, we say this group is to lead, the other group is to go home. Unfortunately, after the elections, they all regroup and render my election useless. You see that?
Come back in another form, same people.
They come back in another form, the same people. Yeah. So I don't think we have had any real elections.
So what about freedom? Is there freedom from what you've seen now? Does that translate? There could be freedom because people have a choice, and this is what they've chosen to put in terms of leadership or government. But the things that we're fighting for, the things that Kenya was fighting for those individuals who fought at that point to get this Madaraka that we celebrate today, can you see that has played out till present day in Kenya?
Not really. We have missed the point. When you come to sectors like education, you find that it is only the Kenyans that are aggressive in education. They love to educate their children. But when it comes from the side of the government, they don't have that much push to do anything for the common man. Yes, that's my issue.
Thank you very much, Towet. Shadrach in Eldoret as well. Good morning.
Good morning to Eric.
Good morning,
Welcome
Shadrach.
to the Situation Room and happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka Day to you.
Are we living the ideals of independence, Shadrach?
I don't think so.
Why?
What our forefathers were fighting for were freedom. Do you have freedom really?
Mm-hmm.
During elections, we got the ballot. The results does not reflect to what we voted for. Is that freedom? If you say the literacy level have gone up since independence,
Yeah.
these people who are the home guards who are being handed over the colonial same role are the one designing the curriculum for us.
Mm-hmm.
They want us to know what they need us to know, not what we are supposed to know.
So the colonial system is still in place,
It's still in place.
even if the governor
It is
left.
being yes, he left, but he left in Kenya some people who oversee their role here in Kenya. They want us to believe that they give us the curriculum which we know that their fathers were the ones who fought for freedom, but not our fathers. Our fathers were fighting for land.
Yeah.
Have they gotten back the land?
Well,
Last week, last week you were on studio when you were appealing for blood for my aunt. I
Yes.
remember. Thank you guys for doing that.
oh yes.
But unfortunately, we lost your hand before we got the blood.
Yeah, we
Poleni
saw
sana.
that, and that was
Poleni
quite
sana,
sad.
Shadrach.
Sorry about that.
Yes, that was in independence. They wanted to eradicate disease.
Yep.
What happened?
And in 2020, we are still running blood appeals.
Yes, on the issue 2 months ago in the studio, we were discussing that these people are selling blood to Somalia. Is that really? Have we gotten really the independence? Yeah? I don't think so.
Points to
We are-
ponder. Points to
yeah.
ponder. Thank you very much,
Thank
Shadrach.
you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. Rose was calling in from Kahawa West, and I think we dropped the call. Rose, you can call back so we can hear what you have to say. Are we living the ideals of it? Now again, and this is where maybe we need to also start looking ourselves at this issue objectively. We got the colonizer out, and we started running the government. There's the issue of self-governance. Whether the person who's at the helm is a crook or not, you put him there. You participated in an election. If 57 years down the road, Kenyans still feel that their vote doesn't count, then they also have a choice of amending and fighting the system and pushing back the system. The whole issue of the second liberation of the republic and bringing back multipartyism was a push for that, to ensure there's more equality in governance. The issue of changing the constitution and coming up with the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was trying to reform the system so that the system is responsive to the citizen.
I think Kenyans still did feel, and I think Kenyans continue to feel disenfranchised.
And then that dream
Because
is
the
hijacked
same
at some
thing,
point.
Yeah, the same thing that those who fought tooth and nail, literally, and life and blood for independence went through and fought for it at that point is the same thing that Kenyans, you hear all these Kenyans who are calling now, speaking, are the same things that they would like to be free from. Because, look, land was taken, resources misappropriated, mismanaged, misspent. Same things that Kenyans are crying about today. So it's interesting because the independence that the revolutionaries fought for at that point is the same kind of independence that Kenyans are trying to fight for today. And if we can't draw that line, then there's a problem. Because the freedom that Kenyans are looking for is the freedom from continually being beaten by things like corruption, the freedom from continually being beaten by mediocre governance and leadership, the freedom from being beaten by misappropriation of public resources. I think that's the freedom that Kenyans are looking to be free. Those are the freedoms that Kenyans are looking for. Coming
up to the top of the hour, we'll take your call. John calling from Nyandarua after the traffic break. Remember today's proverb, it says, if your only tool is a hammer, you'll see every problem as a nail. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Well, you'll be free of traffic this Monday morning. Most people are indoors, and so we're not going to have a problem with that. If perchance you are out today, we're going to ask you to be careful. We're still living in COVID times, so I ask that you put on your masks, especially when you're in public places, and keep yourself protected as well as those who are around you. So for traffic, we're not going to have many issues today, but I'm asking you to be very careful because there's a temptation to go a lot faster because there are less people on the roads. If you do see something we should know about, don't hesitate to let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Share that information with us and we'll share with others.
Spice up your life. Traffic. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths,
Kenya's
debates.
Biggest conversation, broadcasting in Nairobi to 87.9, Mombasa, Kisumu, 102.5, Nakuru, 96.0, Eldoret, 96.7, Nyeri, 90.9, Malindi, 97.7, everywhere around the world on www.spicefm.co.ke, and also we live stream the show on our social media handles, Spice FM KE on Facebook. We live stream on Twitter, Spice FM KE, and YouTube, Spice FM KE. You can watch this show any weekday morning. Now, as we continue with this conversation about our independence, let's look at our democracy. Our democracy has developed in a way that, we didn't have participation. When you had the Kenya African Union and all the others and the political parties that were coming up in the agitation for independence, and we got those political parties at independence, then we went through a period of zero multipartyism, just a single party state. And now we are back to multipartyism, and we're seeing the kind of multi-party politics that we saw happening in the last 1 month. Do you believe the ruling party has some members who are considered errant members within the party? They were whipped. We have seen the same happening in the opposition. ODM whipped its members to align and conform. We have now seen over the weekend Ford Kenya whipping its leader and saying, "You are no longer our leader."
And him making a comeback of epic proportion.
And him claiming that he has made a comeback. And, trying to understand, is he back, is he not?
He's not there. He's not back.
How do we know?
He said he's back.
Well, the other side are also saying that they're in office. So who's the leader of Ford Kenya?
He who has the last laugh.
Uh-huh.
In this case, if we're looking at last night, the last laugh was by Senator Wetangula. Is that not what we saw? Wetangula.
The last laugh. Just because he spoke after.
Yeah, he spoke last. So he said, look, all these are jokes. The day ended with the man who was the leader at the beginning of the day being the leader at the end of the day. But all of these points, I refuse, and I think it is clear. We're still, I think democracy, however it is being defined within the Kenyan context, is a Kenya-centric and Kenya-defined democracy. And I think it's still evolving. I don't think you can say that place, it has been practiced until the end. I don't think there is such a thing. Because even the forefathers of democracy have not practiced it until the place where they see it.
Parties belong to individuals. When you talk about Ford Kenya, in fact, yesterday, the whole conversation was, by the way, remember who the owners of this party are, right? Remember Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who started Ford Kenya. Remember the battle for Ford Kenya between Kijana Amalo and Raila Odinga. Remember, so...
No, I'm sorry, there's no...
And at that point,
there is nothing...
in the struggle between Luo Nyanza and Luya, the party went to Luya land. And Ford Kenya now is...
Under an individual.
A Luya land party.
Under an individual.
Yes.
There is, unfortunately, anybody, there's somebody, I can't remember who it was. I believe it was Senator Murkomen, who said last week something about ideological parties in this country. And I almost laughed because there's no such thing. I think Kenya... No.
City keeps telling you there's an ideology.
No.
The individual is the ideology.
Okay, it could be the individual is the ideology, but we're dealing with personality politics in this country. And it's the personality that sways where the party will go. You will find, interestingly enough, you will find that people were saying something today, 1st of June. If the leader of that party decides to say something totally different in the next 3 days, you will find that suddenly the ideology or the things that people will believe in today will change drastically, and they will toe the line and move with the tide. What kind of is this now how people's mind think will be? You change when the leader changes and goes in a certain way, everybody follows along. It's like a shoal of fish in the middle of the ocean. They follow the food. It's moving in one direction and they see that it has taken its left. They all go. So, I mean, there's no ideological party followership in this country. There really is not.
There's also that strong argument on how you define. It doesn't mean that because you have a strong leader, then therefore you have lost the ideology of the party.
But what is the
because
ideology?
A strong leader of a party is as important as the ideology of the party itself.
If
a party has weak leadership, then that party is basically dead.
I think there are parties in this country that have ideologies in word, but not in deed. And if they can't seem to be pushing that particular agenda, then forget about it. We have parties around the world for whom the ideology is very clear on what it is that they stand for. You have environmental parties, you have social protectionist parties, you have capitalist parties, and you know very well, you don't have to think about it, where they stand and what their goal is for the country. Throw a stone here, wherever it will land, and tell me what the ideology is. Look at the theatrics that we saw yesterday. Tell me what it is that this particular party stands for when it comes to the moving forward of this country, Kenya.
This party has survived many years. I'm sure it has something. There's something that it carries along.
You're struggling to find it, aren't you?
Yeah, because I haven't studied the party. I'm sure there are people who've studied. Somebody who would sit here and tell you, this is what our party stands for. But if you were to study the party, you may find that this is what it stood for in the days of Jaramogi, in the days of Kijana Wamalwa, in the days of the new leadership. This is the same party that has had Musikari Kombo. This party fought Kenya, and even the days of Paul Moite, you will find that this party, what it stood for in the 90s, it still stands for the same kind of things in 2020. The only thing is leadership. If a leader is not strong enough to espouse the ideals and even to communicate what the party stands for, then you assume that this party is dead.
Unfortunately.
Or maybe it's not. And that's why I'm telling you, the leadership is as important as the party itself.
And I would say that in some cases, unfortunately, leadership is the hurdle towards seeing and playing out for real what the ideology of a party is. Because if the leader is the one who is swaying people in one direction, left or right, as quickly as the wind changes, then there's a problem there. If somebody can wake up today and decide that this is the way in which I want it to go, and everybody moves with it because they don't want to go against the winds of change, or for whatever reason that may be, then there's a problem. So it doesn't, if you're saying that an ideology should be unshakable, that doesn't mean the way in which you operate cannot change. But ideology is a belief that is passed on to people and then it is lived out by its practice. An ideology will not change over time. That means that any leader who comes in will plug in to that same ideology. Anybody who joins in is in line with this ideology. If you are not, then join another party. Go somewhere else whose ideologies then are in line with what you also are in line with. But you can't come in and say, okay, yeah, well, it was this way in 1988, and then maybe it's going to be different today. It can take on new ideas as you go along, but the thrust of what you started with,
the foundation is the same.
The foundation is the same. You change the foundation, you crumble an entire building. So I'm saying that a leader cannot come in and change this way of things. They can only do that if the foundation itself in the beginning was not strong. And unfortunately, we've not seen the situation.
Forum for the Restoration of Democracy. That's what FORD actually stands for.
For the restoration of
for
democracy.
The restoration of democracy. When it was pushing for that restoration of democracy in the 90s, this is what it was pushing for. It was saying, look, we have had a single party rule for X number of years in this country, 10 years. And we need this to change. We need to restore democracy in this country. When Jaramogi was going around pushing for the restoration of democracy, this is what he was standing for. He was saying, look, and remember, this is the same Jaramogi who was pushing for democracy even earlier when he was with the Kenyatta government. Right?
Do you think
this is what we stand for? And the rest came on board.
Understood, Eric.
It was not
the way you
alone.
can speak of this 20 years down the line, do you think that now, with the operations of the same party today, do you think that people who are in their youth right now, in the next 20 years, will be able to look back and say, actually, in 2020, with all these shenanigans and theatrics that we saw playing out, that is actually what they stood for the restoration of democracy in Kenya? Can you actually say that young people who are looking at this playing out today will be able to look back over 20 years when they're in the 40s or 50s and say, actually, this is what this party was
Unfortunately,
fighting for?
Unfortunately, no. Because publicly, this party has basically just become a one-person party, and it's a negotiating vehicle.
It's a negotiating vehicle for you to either be realigned with the powers that be, find yourself in the inner caucus, or at least propel yourself to so far up front the line that you could contend for leadership of the country. That's what parties are being used for now, unfortunately. Not the ideologies upon which we hope they would be based on to build a country, to move it forward, and even not to be in positions of leadership. Because I think we often change it to say that parties then must produce somebody who will be the leader or the president. But we forget that parties, political parties, can actually be contributory bodies towards making sure that a country is moving in the way in which it ought to move. Yeah. We often think that political parties will produce a president. It's not the case. They can actually contribute to the pie, and that's what actually they should be contending for.
Contributing to what pie? Like what Ford Kenya did by joining NASA?
No, contributing
to that
even
pie.
As members of the opposition.
ODM will have the president, but Ford Kenya will be be a party that is
feeding in ideas,
coalition.
Feeding in individuals who act as stakeholders to make sure that this thing that you're doing will keep you in line, contributing to a vibrant opposition, for example, to keep whomever it is that is at the leadership in line. Absolutely. But I think we often think that we're going to form a party so that it'll give me roots to become a president. And I think that's where we get it wrong, unfortunately. And I keep saying that democracy can be defined by country. I think in many cases around the world, democracy, unfortunately, is the practice of it, or the ideas of it are actually dead. But we need to understand that when parties were formed, it was not so that every party could come up with a leader or somebody who would be president, king, or ruler. But you have to contribute towards a nation's politics so that then can build on how a nation would be governed. But I think we lost the plot, and we brought in individual personality politics, and we ruined the foundation, unfortunately. So look, unfortunately, we're living on borrowed time here. The foundation is cracking, and until you go back and apply the fixings to it, we're going down a slippery slope here.
But I guess also if we just give them the benefit of the doubt and say Ford Kenya and the leadership. We have Ford Kenya has members of parliament, right? Yes. Ford Kenya has governors. Wangamati is the governor of Vihiga, and he is there, and we have Dr. Iseli Simiyu and the rest. It has members of parliament who are also members of the National Executive Committee who sat yesterday and they decided, you know what, our leader is not behaving according to the ideals of our party.
Right.
And therefore, we want to oust him. We want to remove him so that we can have fresh leadership and fresh blood in this party. That is internal party democracy, assuming that they followed the procedure. But if they didn't follow the procedure, then also now they are basically just vomiting on the shoes of their own democracy.
Right.
But if they follow procedure and they say, our leader is not behaving in a manner that is promoting the ideal of our party, then let's remove him. Fine. And the fact that you can actually have strong leaders that you can mention and say Selisim Wycliffe Wangamat, you can actually name them and say these are the leaders who are holding this meeting and calling their leader to account. It's something to talk about. It's something positive.
You're right. I think so. Unfortunately, I think at the same time, though, is that when you look at governors across, let's just pick governors, okay? Let's take a stab at that now. It would be nice to have a candid conversation, one to the other, who really feels that are products of their political parties, for example, who really feel that their position has been attained by virtue of the fact that they were really interested in moving the country forward, or they had an opportunity for self-alignment that they took. Now, that doesn't mean that because we are looking towards the ideals of a party or the ideals of a nation, that you don't want to promote yourself as an individual. But one cannot, the personality cannot override the position, and then you tell me that it's the country's interest that you have at heart.
Okay. It's 8:15. This is the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning and happy Madaraka Day. We'd like you to contribute to this conversation. We're talking about internal party democracy, not just now national party democracy, but internal party democracy and promotion of good ideals in political parties. The kind of back and forth that we have seen in Ford Kenya yesterday, the kind of back and forth that we have seen within ODM, in Jubilee. Is that promoting internal party democracy? Are we developing our party democracy, political party democracy? Is that actually being promoted as the ideals of party democracy? And as Ndu is asking, can you actually tell what's the ideology of this particular political party? Good morning. Let's take a look at the weather at 16 minutes past 8.
We're going to be looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi for most of the day. Currently at 16 degrees. We'll go to a high of 25 today. It'll be quite a warm afternoon and the sun will come out in all her glory. Taking a look into Nyeri at 17 degrees, partly cloudy conditions today, highs of 23. And in Nakuru, where we'll have partly cloudy conditions this morning and into sunny conditions, the rain will come down in the afternoon then with highs of 25. And in Eldoret, where it's partly cloudy, there will be rain in the afternoon with highs of 23, currently standing at 15 degrees. In Kisumu at 21, partly cloudy conditions through the day with highs of 29. Taking a look then into Kakamega, where it's partly cloudy at 18 degrees. It will be rainy in the afternoon then with highs of 26. In the coastal town of Mombasa today, it's partly cloudy at 26. We'll see highs of 29 with rain in the afternoon. It was showering down in Malindi earlier and it still is the same. We're likely to see rain through Wednesday. Highs of 29 today, however. All right, out of the borders into Kampala at 21 degrees, partly cloudy conditions through the day, then with highs of 27. In Dar es Salaam, where it's mostly sunny this morning at 25, that'll change later in the day with showers with highs of 29. And then down south in Johannesburg, where it's clear skies and mostly sunny conditions at 8 degrees with a high of 22 and lows of 6. Finally, for now in Lagos, it's mostly cloudy at 26 degrees. That'll be the situation for most of the day. It'll get up to a warm high of 32 and come down to a low of 24.
Minutes after 8. This is the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is right on News Space. We are talking about political. Ford Kenya leaders yesterday met and they decided to oust their party leader. And then the party leader met and decided to oust the leaders who had ousted him. And we also saw a statement from the Amani National Congress, which the leader is Musalia Mudavadi. And Musalia Mudavadi came and said, look, what's happening in Fort Kenya is indicative of a bigger problem. And the bigger problem here is that there are attempts from outside to interfere with the internal democracy of political parties. And he was basically pointing a finger at ODM without just directly saying ODM. He was saying a leader of one of the political parties in the NASA coalition. Well, the NASA coalition has Wiper, Ford Kenya, ANC, and ODM. Mm-hmm. So if it's not Ford Kenya itself, because it's the one in problems, and it's not ANC because you're the one who's talking, you either mean Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper or Raila Odinga of
ODM.
ODM. And we know
as is the usual practice.
Clearly, We know who you refer to.
Yes.
And ODM, of course, reacted to that and said, come on, you cannot even hold your own party together. What are you telling us? But it's indicative of issues happening within our political parties.
I'm very interested to note then, if we're going to look at, because a lot of these problems, it's like a chain that's got so many knots in it, and but by the time you unfurl one, here's another one. You need to keep going down, because you say, are we going to get to the point where we have this seamless flow of power, seamless flow of operations, then trying to get a country to actually move the way in which it should be moving? We talked a few minutes ago about how somebody's gone to space. They finished everything they could do here on Earth, right? And then they've been able to go to a stratosphere. They've skipped. So how long are we going to be having this conversation? 57 years is not 57 minutes. It's quite some time. And if we look at how democracy has developed over these 57 years, it's quite sad that you have 100% of the people that we've spoken to this morning, just from their perception, that we've not really done much in terms of getting ourselves from point A to point B. We may have had the external shackles of colonialism removed, but then there's still so many internal ties that still seem to hold the country down. And unfortunately, those internal ties are being maneuvered or manipulated by individuals.
By political class.
Unfortunately, right? So I'm very interested to understand, when we saw the ousting of such, because we heard early in the morning that this was going to happen, what was the reason behind this? To remove the leader of Ford Kenya, what was the reason? It would be very interesting to know, did you not like him anymore? Did he wear a wrong-colored suit one day? What was the problem? Or is it just going along with the wave of things in which we have seen has happened over the last 3 weeks, and somebody else wanted to throw their hat into the ring and say, we too are cleaning up house? Because if that was the case, then that's quite unfortunate. And this is not the kind of, unfortunately, juvenile politics that we should be playing at this point. 57 years down the line. It is not what should be happening at this point, to say, okay, yeah, well, it's been happening in other parties, because unfortunately, until you can find a valid reason why this was happening yesterday, until somebody can give you some watertight, airtight reason as to why this happened yesterday, then that's going to be it. We're just going along with what has been happening in other parties a week ago and a week before that. So we too also need to have some rumblings on our end. Otherwise, there's nothing more that you can add to that in terms of an argument.
So let's just put the perspective, all right? Friday, Atwoli hosts leaders from Western Kenya in Isinya.
We've not even gotten to that yet,
right?
But okay, yes.
So he hosts them there, and they discuss Luhya unity and the way forward for Luhya. And then soon after that, some of the people who are in that meeting in Isinya are the ones who are holding a National Executive Committee meeting for Fort Kenya and ousting their leader, who was not in Isinya.
Yes.
So you can clearly see that, could this be one of the things that was discussed in Isinya and deliberated in Isinya and said, you know what, guys, we need to move forward. And for us to move forward, get that guy out of the leadership, get somebody else, somebody who we can work together.
More dynamic, more vibrant, kind of what they were looking for.
You know, and kick him out. And it happens that a meeting is actually held within 72 hours. A meeting is held and a leader is ousted. And the leader comes out and says, you know what? This meeting that happened in Atwali's home, this is where this matter was discussed. Because this is what Wetangula himself is saying. He is pointing a finger at the meeting in Isinya, at Francis Atwali's home. So basically the leader of a party is saying the affairs of this party are being interfered with by somebody who is not even a member of this party. Atwali goes around publicly saying, I am a life member of KANU. So he's a KANU
without
member.
doubt.
Without doubt. So when you see the leader of Fort Kenya saying that his party has been infiltrated by Atwali, because this is what he was saying, the Bungoma senator, he's saying his goose was cooked at a luncheon hosted by COTU Secretary General Francis Atwali. It's part of the ledger succession plot at play in the country. These are questions that went through his mind as he tried to absorb the palace coup that took place yesterday morning, dethroning him as Fort Kenya party leader. The politician, despite brushing off the move, blamed his woes on Atwali. A claim echoed by Amani Party leader Musalia Mudavadi. According to him, the Fort Kenya coup was a well-orchestrated move which did not start recently but has been planned for days in order to cow him and Wetangula. Commenting on the coup, Mudavadi said the move was calculated to destabilize all independent-minded political parties. In an apparent reference to the ODM leader Raila Odinga, he said the scheme has been escalated at a number of meetings led by the leader of a NASA member party. All these guys are saying What is Atwoli trying to do? Atwoli is trying to destabilize our parties. Okay? The leader of Fort Kenya says there is an enemy at the gates.
I think this enemy is at the dining table.
He's already inside.
My friend, the enemy is inside. Can't forget the luncheon that was held just around Easter, right? In this very same venue.
Yes.
So look, if you want to give some credence or you want to give some a kind of authenticity to what he's saying,
it's been in the works.
It's been this thing Easter Monday, a luncheon similar to this that happened on Friday took place in this very same venue with the leader of this party that they're talking about now. ODM. So
and
if you want to look at
the leader of Jubilee, vice chairman of Jubilee.
So if you want to lend credence to that argument, it's there for you. We're talking about at the gate, inside, at the dining table. Fork and knife has already been displayed. They're having a meal, my friend. It has already happened. So if you want to look on the other side of that, then there is a reason for that argument, and it can be based on events that have already taken place. Now, you want to ask yourself, does it make any difference in how people start to think? Absolutely, it does. Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with personalities. You're dealing with individuals whose sway, as we can see in politics in this country, is not very firmly rooted. They can change. Even this outing that took place today, get somebody who would be able to do something for them in terms of their personality politics, they'll change. Fickle is the Kenyan politician.
So you think these guys are doing that so that they can agree, because Musalia is talking about independent-minded. And you know what he means by independent-minded in this case? He's talking about those who have refused to do a cooperation with the Jubilee government.
Yep.
So we are trying to get them out so that we can get people who are aligned to Jubilee to come at the helm of the party. So we can say all the political parties in parliament have a cooperation agreement.
The line.
Have a cooperation agreement with the ruling party.
Okay, you can call it that if you want. But are towing the line of the ruling party.
Hi. Our friend John Nyandarua. Good morning.
Yes, morning. How are you? Happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka Day to you, John.
Yes, we are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to comment on that very healthy debate you have.
Yeah.
Regarding whether we are independent or not.
Uh-huh.
Or whether we have achieved the foundations of our independence.
Yeah.
Indeed, we have achieved the foundations of our independence. What has happened is that the people of Kenya have destroyed the maintenance of those foundations by, thinking that independence is about the election of individuals.
Yeah.
They keep on oscillating around individuals, that if you don't elect Odinga, we are not independent. If we don't elect Ruto, we are not independent. If we don't elect Kenyatta, we are not independent. We have grouped ourselves behind certain individuals and certain political parties.
Yeah.
Rather than building a foundation of parties that have ideology. Yeah, because our constitution is American. So we should have borrowed the ideas of American political parties which have existed for years, regardless of individuals.
Are you saying, John, that the political parties we have in the country don't have ideology?
The individual ideologies. For instance, if Kenyatta were to leave Jubilee today, and Ruto, the party would be dead.
Yep.
Parties have died before. Because we look at individuals, not the ideology that is in the party. For instance, now in the coming elections, you will see new parties coming up. And that's why these people are playing all these games you see around. So that they come with a new outfit that people will follow. Ruto will come with his own outfit, and those who follow him will follow that outfit. Odinga will come with his outfit. Those who support him will come with that outfit. So Kenya will never be stable ideologically.
Sadly, John, I'm saying,
unless somebody crops up, somebody who will change the face of this country. We need different people, not these individuals who keep on, telling us this is the way, the same old people. We need different people.
I hear you, John, and it's the sad reality is that that's the case, because look at the parties that we see now. They're headed by in Kenya, headed by individuals who have some kind of political depth, as it were. And the truth is, the truth of the matter is that if you remove them, that it's very, very likely that those parties will not exist.
They will not exist. So we need young people to wake up and bring a central way, somebody different from all these people. Somebody with a different idea, somebody who will bring change in this Kenya.
How will that person get an opportunity, though?
This is the problem, because we Kenyans are the problem.
We've lost John, but he's made this point. The problem is that, when you're talking about we need a change of guard, a change of leadership, by the time you're identifying that person who will breathe a breath of fresh air, blow a breath of fresh air into this whole situation, will not give them an opportunity.
Nope.
Because you're still focused on the leadership of political parties and the people who they are. Musalia Mudavadi divided under a different party in 2013 called UDF. When he formed the ANC, when he went into ANC, nobody remembers UDF.
Right. But if you were to ask at that time, they'd have told you UDF is the party. This is the ideology, what we stand for, what we believe in, what we hope for this country in the future. They would have told you without fear of contradiction. They would have told you that.
URP was a party in 2013 in the election. And just before Ruto had gone to URP, he was in another party. Before he left ODM, went into another party. He has a name, can't remember that name. Went into URP. URP now went and merged and dissolved themselves, and they became Jubilee Party. So it's all about the individuals. I agree with you. But also, when you look at political parties and some leaders like Martha Karua, who came here and said, look, I am building the structures of a political party that will have ideals of social democracy. And this is NARC Kenya. But you don't give her a chance.
Because?
Well, because we're still focusing our attention on the big names. If Raila joined NARC Kenya today, NARC Kenya would become vibrant. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. It's a situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. And then this conversation continues. We're asking you, do we have a political party democracy in this country? Internal political party democracy. 0719 012 600. Good morning.
All right, and not much of it on the roads today. What we're asking people to do is make sure that you keep your masks up, especially when you're in public areas. Let's do that for traffic today, shall we? And on Thika Road today, it seems to be easy street. One accident, though, very minor. It shouldn't affect because there's not much in terms of vehicles around. You should know that in Rwanda, folks are lining up to get into buses and public transport and are maintaining social distance. How about we try that, shall we? Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Not much happening today, but if it does, do let us know and we'll let you know.
Twenty-six to 9. This is the situation. Kenya's biggest conversation in the room. Internal political party democracy is the topic we're discussing today, and we'd like you to join the conversation. 0719 012 600. Also, you can join the conversation on Twitter at SpiceFMKE. You can tag us at Nduoko at Eric Latif. Yeah. So you were talking about our political parties not having what are these saying that they don't have?
Depth. Yeah.
It's all
ideologies.
About it's all about the individuals.
The ideologies on paper. I mean, that you can do anything. I mean, at some point, a 3-year-old will be able to read that and figure that out. But in terms of practice, I think, unfortunately, still quite juvenile in the way it is practiced. And again, a political party is a tool through which certain ideas then can be practiced and achieved for the betterment of a nation. That's what it's about. If you want to run around as an individual who is seeking, then do that. Run around as an individual. But unfortunately, we've used political parties as a drapery for individuals to have. Now, they should be a tool towards country development and achievement of certain national goals and ideals and sovereignty and such. But unfortunately, political parties have been used as a tool for individual advancement when it comes to politics. You see how we've gotten it backwards? If we look at parties that are famous around the world for what they've been able to do, it doesn't matter. You wake up from your sleep and somebody asks you, what do they represent? You would be able to answer that because it is known, it is practiced, it is fueled, and the individual carries the ideology of the party. In this case, unfortunately, the party carries the individual, and that's not the way it should be. And that's what I'm saying. If we're looking at, we keep shouting about this, democracy, that. I mean, one of the ways in which it can be practiced is very clearly through political parties. And unfortunately, political parties have not carried ideology, and they've not carried democracy. They should be one of the tools and channels for democracy. In this country, they've not done that. It has not been the case, unfortunately. It has been tools for individuals to thrive.
Okay.
And it also has been tools for individuals to show their support for the Queen Bee in most cases. Queen Bee in this case being the individual.
Oh, okay. I was wondering who's the Queen Bee now in this particular case, you know. So the people who wanted to oust Moses Wetangula yesterday were saying Wetangula and Chris Omalwa, who is the acting Secretary General, were kicked for gross violation of the Constitution, the law, and moral impropriety. The senator is accused of failing to be a symbol of national unity, failing to champion the party's campaign to unite the country, win elections, and form the government. So let's actually now focus on Ford Kenya itself. This is the party of Jaramogi, all right? This is a party, Ford Kenya, that was very, very instrumental in the push for multipartyism, and it was formed soon after in that campaign. Has Moses Wetangula let down this party, or the ideals, the movement of Ford Kenya, the Forum for the Restoration of Democracy Kenya? Remember, Ford was one, then it split into Ford Asili of Kenneth Matiba, Ford Kenya of Jaramogi. Has Moses Wetangula lost the plot in the leadership of this party? Because this is what they're accusing him. They're saying basically this party of ours has just become
a lame duck.
Yeah, a lame duck. It's not moving anywhere. It's not helping anybody. It's not advancing any kind of ideology. And so that is one. Then also we'll talk about the political party, democracy in the country, and the issue of democracy within political parties.
But is that the fault of Moses Wetangula? And that's the question that must be asked. The party has lost the plot. Is it his fault?
He's a leader. Where does the buck stop?
Did they realize this after Friday?
Yeah.
Or had they known this before?
Well, Friday.
Yeah.
Friday was just a culmination when they came together and they were like, okay,
actually,
by
this
the
is
way,
true.
no, we should do something about it. Probably. Maybe that's what they did. Let's talk to somebody who understands these matters of political parties in the country. A number of things that he understands. The history of politics in this country. Okay, he's a man who, the last time we spoke to him, he was telling us about how much of depth of wisdom that he has on these matters because he has participated in many. He is the Secretary General of the Amani National Congress. He is also a publisher, and he is a commentator on matters politics in the country. Barak Muluka, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Salama kabisa. Happy Madaraka Day to you.
Happy Madaraka. I'm happy to talk to you and to witness the 57th Madaraka.
Good morning, Barak.
Hey, morning, Undi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Same here. Happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka.
Now, Barak, are you in Nairobi or are you in the village?
I'm taking it easy right here in Westlands. Matata, as we say.
Right.
That's a good one. Yesterday, well, the past week, this weekend, we have seen something happen.
Yes.
And this is a clamor for Luhya unity.
Yes.
This was being led by Francis Atwoli, who hosted a number of leaders from Western Kenya. They met at his home in Isinya, and they discussed Luhya unity. And then soon after,
Yes.
we start seeing what happened unravel at Fort Kenya yesterday.
Yes.
And then your own party leader issued a statement as well and said that meeting must have discussed how to destabilize independent-minded political parties.
Yes.
Give us a perspective on this. What's happening?
First of all, I think I have to frame it within a thematic prism. And I would say that what we are witnessing as a country overall is a process of reversals and negations. Reversals of democratic gains that have been made to history. And we are seeing very deliberate negations from very high places. It is not as if this has not happened before in the country. It is something that has previously happened. So if I leave aside the Luya unity bit first, because I can always go back to that and address it, and address more fundamental national issues and agenda. We saw that in the period 1963 to 1964-65, there was a derogation of democracy and the paralyzation of democratic institutions and processes in the country under the Jomo Kenyatta government, and which was spearheaded by Tom Mboya, Charles Njonjo, Mwai Kibaki, and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, although Odinga himself would also go on to become a victim of the same process. First, they went for opposition parties. Then they went for the Senate. They went for the regional assemblies. They killed them. After doing that, they turned inside in Kanu and repressed dissent. Then they killed Parliament. And when a member of Parliament stood up on the floor of the House and said they want to kill Parliament the way Kanu was killed, he was asked to substantiate. And when the Deputy Speaker said, "How can you substantiate the obvious?" both of them were detained. Now that process is playing itself again. We have got a parliament that is whipped from State House. Not even at the lowest moment of the Kanu regime that I speak about did Presidents Jomo Kenyatta and Daniel Arap Moi whip parliament from State House. It is a show of might. If I have an issue with you and I come to meet you to discuss it, and I'm displaying guns from my hipsters, it is an act of intimidation. And that intimidation has led to the capture of the legislature, such that you have legislators who stand to speak on the floor of the House. They speak for about 5-10 minutes, and then they go on to vote in a manner that is contrary to the things that they have just been thinking and articulating on the floor. It is an indication that you are talking about people who are afraid. They're afraid of State House, of the wielders of power. And these things must be called by their correct names. Parliament is now hostage, it is captive, and institutions are being infiltrated.
But
the National Assembly,
did this happen progressively, or was it just sudden?
It has been happening progressively. There has been the purge in Jubilee Party, and people will tell us things like, "Oh, don't talk about it. You are not in Jubilee. It does not concern you." All these things concern us. Martin Nemler said in 1946 that first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unions, and I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak up because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics, and I did not speak up because I was a Protestant.
Yep.
Then they came for me, and there was nobody to speak.
Yep.
So these things concern us. So in Kiswahili, they say when you see somebody being shaved, please start preparing your
Prepare
head.
your head.
It's coming next. And now this is what has been happening, and I think that without fear of contradiction, this regime, particularly its second phase, is going to go down in history as a regime that presided on reversals and negations of the gains that the previous regimes and leaders had been forced to allow. And when you see what is happening in Kajiado, where the Secretary General of the organization, Central Organization of Trade Unions, is leading a so-called tribal caucus, first from a tribal platform, it is flawed. You cannot canvass Luya matters in Isinya, in Kajiado. You have to go and canvass them in Kakamega, in Busia, in Bungoma, in Trans Nzoia.
Okay.
You cannot install Luya elders and spokespersons in the absence of the aged grandees of the community who have got the paraphernalia for those kinds of installations. You cannot do it using borrowed mouth, because strictly when you start talking about Luya, who is a Luya, then we are talking about people's ancestries and genetic makeups. Eugene Wamalwa is not a Luya. Eugene Wamalwa is a Sabaot, Mount Elgon, Maasai.
Yep.
And sometimes the Luya people behave as if being Luya is a movement. That anyone who wants to join in is
can
allowed
just come
to
along.
join in.
Anyone can be a
they can
Luya.
just,
But
anyone
Barak,
can be a Luya.
Atwoli has a rebuttal on that. And he says, look, in 2016, I held a meeting in this same home where we started the conversation of having Musalia Mudavadi to be installed as a Luya leader. Culminated in December 31st at Buhungu Stadium, where now we had an entire meeting, and he said, look, our spokesman as the Luya community is Musalia Mudavadi. And at that point, none of you made any noise.
Well, we did not know, at least I did not know that it was a choreography that began in Isinya. If indeed it was, and that's what he's saying, I'm being educated now and by yourselves and by him. But we know that he said that he had gone through a process.
Yeah.
That
he even brought in a survey. He conducted a survey, I remember, in 2016.
Eric, I'm the guest on this show. So you don't ask questions and answer them yourself. You ask questions and you allow the guest to answer.
I'm reminding you of that process. Some of those things were really public. If you are not aware of a meeting at home, you must be aware.
Why don't you allow me to answer the question you have asked, Eric?
Go ahead.
Yeah, because the meetings, and I must confess, I attended at least one of them, were being held at a place called Ebuchero Ebukwala. And Ebuchero Ebukwala is in Kisa Central, in Muluanda sublocation, of Kisa Central location. That's where I know that Atwoli held those meetings. And I was invited to one of those meetings. I was witness to them. But even as all this was happening, one of the biggest mistakes is when you attempt to be very humble and accommodative to people. Number one, it should actually never have been done, because Musalia Mudavadi had already in the year 2006 in Muriro Gardens by Luya elders been made an elder and a spokesperson of the community. So anything that Atwoli was doing was icing on the cake. It was like some of those weddings that I see people calling renewal of marriage.
Vows.
Of vows of marriage. and which is really neither here nor there. But I was telling you about the movement, and which is important that we get this right, because I say that to be Luhia or to be Luo or to be anything else, you must have the genetic makeup. That when we do your genetic mapping, we can actually map you to some grand progenitors who no longer exist. The genetic makeup of Eugene Wamalwa is Elgon Maasai. The genetic makeup of Wycliffe Oparanya is Teso. And the genetic makeup of Atwoli, in spite of even the disguise of the name Aduol, is Luo. So sometimes we completely get it wrong. It cannot even be done in the house of and the women will have to forgive me, but we are talking about culture. It cannot be done in the home of a junior wife in some foreign place called Maasai land. It can't. And then when you have also given the insignia and the regalia and the royal amulets, you cannot install someone else. We know, Eric, the whole of that panel that you have there has got people who are deeply healed in history. That you had kingdoms in the Great Lakes region, the Interlacustrine region, and that people would fight to try and get hold of the royal spears, the royal drums, the royal amulets. You cannot claim to sit on a royal stool when there is none, because it has already been taken. And that tradition goes all the way into the Bible. That Esau comes back and asks his father for blessings, and he's told that they're already gone. He's asked, can you give me even just a quarter of a blessing? There's none left.
Blessing, right.
And they say, well, they have gone. So they have gone.
I hear you
They've
talking...
gone, Eric.
Barak, I hear you talking about precedent, essentially when all of these now traditions would take place. But I want to go back to something that you mentioned a few minutes ago. When you said that such meetings, which seems to encapsulate people's imagination right now, that's front and center, the drama, the theatrics of all of it, a meeting in a junior wife's house, as you've said. But you said it negates the gains that we have made along this. And I think it's interesting that we speak about this on Madaraka Day itself. And for people to be able to see the deeper and wider picture of all of this, then what, and at the risk of asking a naive question, what are these gains that would be negated by such action that we've seen over the last 3 days?
The gains that are hugely negated, the gains of in the area of the challenge of nationhood. Because Madaraka, as we speak of it today, Madaraka is the beginning of the birth of the Kenyan nation. And the Kenyan nation may not be surmised as a physical space, the expression of a geographical nature, where we map it in terms of certain coordinates and say that it runs from degrees this south to degrees that north and east and west. The Kenyan nation are a people, but there are people who have failed to amalgamate, to fuse and diffuse into each other and become one person. That was the essence of Madaraka. But then those people give themselves the opportunity for self-determination, the determination of their affairs relative to the resources that are available, relative to law and order, relative to the opportunities within that environment, and relative to equity, and relative to all those very edified aspirations that are captured in the national anthem, a God-fearing nation that lives in peace and liberty, that has got justice as its shield and defender, that enjoys the fruits of its labor, not the fruits of corruption. All those things are negated by the kind of negative ethnicity and chronisms that we start seeing in the capture of the legislature, in the attempt to capture the judiciary, in the invasion of political parties and disorganizing them for purposes of prosecuting the agenda of a few selfish individuals who hold the positions of power. President Uhuru Kenyatta, the most critical moment for President Uhuru Kenyatta is his tenure. The moment that he is in office, that is the moment he should be worried about. Instead of paying concern to the challenges that are encompassed in the time that he's sitting in the seat of power, he is spending time worrying about the next tenure and who will be and who will not be the next president. What does that matter to him? He should be worried about today the tenure that Kenyans have given him. People like Musalia Mudavadi and myself are the ones who should be worried about both the current tenure, because we have the responsibility to prefecture him, and the future, because we are competing for that space. For him, he should just be concerned with the present moment and the future only to the extent that he will hand over a stable country.
But now looking at all these things, and I think you've done very well to give us the context of this and taking us back to similar kind of events happening soon after independence. So we are at a place where, Barack, you're saying you are feeling that there is, let's just call it state capture of the political scene in the country, where political parties are now being whipped from State House, where Parliament is being whipped and being directed from State House. What is the what's the way to salvage this situation, to take us back to the path of attaining proper democracy?
Informed, eternal vigilance. But moments such as these are the sorts of occasions that lead to only one person being left standing, a Dr. Stockman in Henrik Ibsen's An Enemy of the People. That it is such moments that leave only one John Proctor in Arthur Miller's The Crucible standing. That it is in such moments that you only have Thomas More standing in A Man for All Seasons. That the majority who are driven by appetitive concerns will surrender. That Parliament surrenders. One of the easiest things to do is to cave in to the dictates of power and the appetite. So you must have a few people who remain vigilant. People like myself, for example. I'm 60 years and above. It doesn't matter if I drop dead tomorrow. It will not make such much difference, apart from the fact that the country will be the worse for it, because it loses one of...
I knew you were heading somewhere.
and bolder voices that Barack, I really lose nothing.
Look, so Barack Muluka would stand up. And then who else? Because I also have to raise the issue of, yes, we may have some people standing, but some of them are standing not because of the ideals that they believe in, but because they were not consulted or they were not brought in. How do we distinguish between those who stand smarting because they were not included and those who actually stand on principle?
If something is good, Eric, as Barack, I will support it, regardless of where it was developed. If it is good, I'll be more concerned about the end rather than the means and the how of it. Although processes and means have been put there because they matter. When we ignore processes, then we start smuggling in wrong ends, and we start getting things wrong. That's why the process has been put there. And critically, there's a very important institution. It was Oliver Cromwell, 1848, who referred to the media as the fourth estate. when he said in Parliament, and yonder there in the gallery sits the Fourth Estate, and they is stronger than all the rest. The Fourth Estate is a gatekeeping institution.
Yep.
It is a watchdog institution. Its role is not just to inform us or to entertain us, as I've sometimes heard people say. Its role is to inform us. Its role is to editorialize. Its role is to set agenda. And the agenda setting role is particularly critical, that the Fourth Estate must get to the depth and substance of issues and place them squarely in the agora of public conversations, so that the citizens of this country can know where they are going. Sometimes you get the reportage looking like it's from a certain chamber of entertainment. And today there's such a notion as infotainment.
Right.
And the information is useful to the extent that it's entertaining us. We must remind ourselves that we are not talking about a football derby between Manchester United and Arsenal. We are talking about things that concern us.
Right.
Flesh and blood things that have a direct bearing on us. And that the media cannot behave as if it's in some ivory tower watching those fools in the political theater messing themselves up in mud. That we are talking about things that are touching on you today. Look at a situation where 4 million, now I'm told 5 million jobs are at risk. And what we are seeing is Parliament convening not to discuss the potential loss of 5 million jobs, but the removal of a deputy speaker.
For realignment,
We are not seeing people meeting to discuss the diminishing tax base, even as our expectations of the performance of government continue to rise. The tax base where this government derives the funds for its functions, its revenues, is diminishing, if not dying. Parliament is convened not to discuss that, but to talk about a deputy speaker, a minority whip, a majority whip, who must be removed. Parliament meets not to talk about 196,000 citizens who have become homeless because of floods, or 9,000 families that the government has rendered homeless, but instead to talk about who should sit on what to cry the beloved country.
Barack, we see your party leader, Musalia Mudavadi of the ANC, has been very vocal on this, and like yesterday, issuing a statement as soon as the drama started unfolding in Fort Kenya, and calling out on the kind of shenanigans that are going on. Now, bringing you back to those that stand up and start speaking this alternative voice and bringing out the issues, this is exactly what's happening, and this is what we should be discussing as a country. Are we likely to see ANC now coming up and, let's say, working with Wetangula's wing of Ford Kenya and working with others to make that voice strong and loud?
We will make that voice strong and loud, and we will work with anybody and everybody whose vision is the same as our vision, who start seeing the need to place the country first. There's nobody on the landscape who turns the right direction, the right corner, that we will not, as ANC, talk to. Even those who persecute us today, Jesus Christ tells us about Saul of Tarsus on his way to Damascus to persecute Christians. And he saw the light, and there was a voice that said, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Even those who persecute us today, if they turn the corner and they demonstrate that they have turned the corner, you must be willing to work with them. So there's nobody. Nobody.
That's a pointed statement. So let me just ask you directly. So are you saying that even the Tanga wing of Jubilee that has now been pushed and they're seeing things from a different light, ANC is willing to work with them?
If William Ruto will become Paul, he will work with Peter. Yeah? And you can go and read the scriptures and see how Saul of Tarsus became Paul. And he worked with Peter and the disciples.
People who he threatened to actually extinguish previously.
Absolutely. Nothing stops us. Yes.
Don't you feel that your agenda may not be the same? Your agenda may be well intended. His agenda may be looking at just trying to get back. It's vengeful.
If our agenda will not be the same, and to use the same analogy that I've just used, we will have the Council of Jerusalem, and we will define a common agenda for the country.
I have to come back to this issue, Barack, and I think that initially when political parties are formed, ideology is the foundation upon which they are built. And I have trouble many times finding the ideology practiced by many parties in this country. And unfortunately, I find personality politics playing out to a very large extent. What we see over the last couple of weeks is individuals aligning themselves towards the powers that be. And you alluded to that when we started this conversation, that individuals are going to take a particular position because they're either afraid of being left out, or rather afraid of being punished, at the same time afraid of being left out from the inner caucuses of power.
Yes.
So, why is it that we can't see the ideologies playing out? Because again, in the last statement that you've made, you've talked about for the betterment of the country. Now, why do we see the personality politics oftentimes outplaying the foundational ideologies of parties?
Well, first, the country itself is intolerant to ideology because a political economy thrives within certain philosophical orientations that we then call an ideology, an ideological orientation. What kind of country do you want to contribute towards, to build? What sort of nation, what sort of opportunities and means of accessing those opportunities do you want to put together for the betterment of the country? And that is not allowed in this country. So that as we went to independence, for example, there were clear ideological stance. You had the federalist orientation within KADU, and you had the centrist Unitarian nationalist orientation of KANU. Afterwards, you had the leftist socialist leanings of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and the quasi-capitalist agenda of Jomo Kenyatta and Tom Mboya, complete with certain levels of primitive accumulation. And in subsequent years, the ideology has been the ideology of the tribal dominance. And President Daniel Arap Moi told us at some point that the only ideology he knew was the Tumbo ideology. And you can see where the Tumbo ideology has taken us. And I think in recent times, and the media has not taken time to help to break this down. I'm privileged that you have invited me today, because people like myself are now shunned by the media because of how we try to be objective. Look, William Ruto has committed a certain sin. And that sin that he has committed has been to try to shift the center of conversation from the tribe to the class. But the struggles we have had have so far been tribal struggles.
Yeah.
Tribe this against tribe that.
Yeah.
And William Ruto has said, no. Let us reframe this. And I'm now speaking not as a Secretary General of a party. I'm now speaking as a scholar.
Okay.
Yeah? And he has said, no, it is a class struggle. It is the hustlers versus the dynasties.
The dynasties.
Yeah? And that has turned out very dangerously for him, particularly when he has framed that conversation in the presence of people he perceives to belong to the dynasty.
Yes.
And he has told them that because of certain dynamics, the child of a hustler who went to school without shoes, barefoot, I'm now able to sit at table with the son of the founding president, and that's an insult. Yeah. So they say we are going to show you dust.
We'll deal with you.
We'll put you in your place. Remind you where you came from.
So ideology gets lost. We are not allowed an ideological orientation, because if we should embrace the politics of ideological orientation and what this country requires.
When you speak of, sorry, Barack, but when you say not allowed, when you say not allowed, you suggest that there's somebody then who is holding on to the controls. Because being allowed means that somebody is essentially giving you permission to do something or not. What then are the conditions that would allow for this to happen, or in this case, not?
And you know that the privileged classes are there everywhere, and they are monitoring these things. And actually, the privileged classes would prefer that the citizenry is zombified
and not aware of what is really happening.
Yes, everywhere in the world, starting with those who purport to be extremely democratic, United States, Australia, United Kingdom, everywhere. There's a zombification of the citizenry by those who own those countries. In fact, to the extent that they own people, they own your mind, and they do not allow certain dynamics to take root. And in this context here, it is not allowed. And some of them, however, the few wise ones, try to have around them classes of paid thinkers who tell them that you are pushing it beyond limits. Give it a bit of breathing space, otherwise it's going to explode. And when they do not allow it to breathe, it builds up to a point of explosion. And when the explosive processes begin, they are self-propelling. There's nothing, no force
that can stop
in the universe that can stop them.
Wow.
Are we heading there?
Step by step, we are heading there. Remember, at the start of this conversation, I talked about negations and reversals. We make one good step forward, and then those who are the custodians of power take us 2-3 steps backward. And so we have found a certain space in which we play. You know the steering wheel of your car, when it is not properly adjusted, you take it to the Juakali, like where I take my old jalopy, and he tells me, Barack, he's steering, he gonna play. He gonna play. There's a certain kind of radius in which it loosely plays. It's not exactly where it is supposed to be. It should be. And you cannot also quite say that it is defective, but it is actually defective. So it's gonna play. So that place where it is playing, it stays there for a while, And because the vehicle is moving anyway, I do nothing about it. I know that it's gonna play, but I kind of carry on with it. But the scientific processes that we call friction are going on nonetheless. And someday what you end up with is a steering wheel in your hands, and the steering wheel is disengaged from the vehicle.
From the vehicle.
And the rest, I leave to your imagination.
Wow.
Barack Muluka, thank you very much for speaking to us today. And also for giving us that historical perspective of what we are seeing happening today, taking us back into that context, and also pointing to the future and what is likely to be happening.
Asante sana. It's always a joy and a privilege to talk to you people. I've always told you, you are a wonderful team, and it's always fantastic.
Asante.
Always a pleasure, Barack. Thank you very much.
Have a good day. And happy Madaraka Day once again.
You too.
At 9:15, this is the Situation Room. The conversation continues. We'll now be inviting your phone calls to come in as we continue this conversation. Our colleague who's working from home, CT Muga, will be joining us shortly. And as we continue this conversation, first, let's take a look at the weather. Remember, the 0719 012 600 is the number to call. Good morning.
It's 18 degrees and partly cloudy. In Nairobi, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 13 today. In Nyeri this morning at 18, it's mostly sunny. This is what we'll see through the day. Highs of 23 and lows of 13. Nakuru, at mostly sunny conditions, will take us to rain in the afternoon, then with highs of 24. And in Eldoret, we'll have rain showers in the afternoon with highs of 23. Partly cloudy conditions at the moment. Kisumu is partly cloudy at 23. We'll see highs of 29 and lows of 19 today. Kakamega at 21 degrees will be mostly sunny through most parts of the morning, and then rains in the afternoon, then with highs of 26. Mombasa 27 this morning, and rain showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 29. The showers have subsided in Malindi, but they are going to come back this afternoon with highs of 29 and lows of 25. Kampala 24 this Monday morning is mostly sunny, partly cloudy conditions to continue through most parts of the day with highs of 27. Dar es Salaam at 26 degrees will be at 29 for most parts of the day, and then some showers will be experienced later. Johannesburg at 11 degrees is mostly sunny conditions through the day with highs of 22 and lows of 6. Lagos at 26 degrees is mostly cloudy, highs of 32 and lows of 24. Let's take things to Europe now, and we'll see that Paris will be mostly sunny at 16. Highs of 27 and lows of 15. London is clear skies all through at 13 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 12. And wrap things up for Monday today in New York, where it's clear skies all through at 13 degrees, highs of 22 and lows of 12.
Eh, 18 after 9. We've heard what has been said by wisdom. Alright, now, there's something that happened. You know, we keep referring to this meeting that was taking place in Senior, making it sound like it's a normal thing in this time.
Focusing on the political aspect of this.
Yes, that it's actually very normal for 40 people to meet at somebody's
Spice up
home,
your life.
and they eat meat and whatever, and they have a meeting and they address even the people, and it appears like, well, nothing major really happened here because, as Atoli says, he had the leaders
at the gate.
Yeah, there was testing at the gate. How many? What page is this story? I'm looking for it so that I can give you that context. As you look for that one in the Standard, the one in the Nation talks about uproar as leaders flout COVID-19 rules. Kenyans are concerned by how national and county leaders are blazingly breaching the health ministry's COVID-19 protocols. The countries, it has also emerged that political competitors are hiring goons to confuse forums, which they use to discredit opponents by using photos of senior leaders, among them Kodru Secretary General Francis Atwoli, Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui, Nyandarwa's Francis Kimemia, breaching COVID-19 protocols that dominated social media debates. So it's not just Atwoli, even governors, we have seen them meeting and, flouting all those physical distancing rules, wearing masks on their necks or their foreheads.
The Nairobi metropolitan area, going wherever you want to
all
go.
the way, traveling as far as Isinya in Kajiado County, which is beyond the Nairobi metropolitan region. Coming back, we see political leaders meeting in parliament. When ODM parliamentary group was held last week, and they came out and they said, this is how we're going to whip the members. The leaders were standing next to each other.
Exactly.
There was no issue of physical distancing. They're addressing the media. They were not wearing masks. They're standing there. You can see the chairman of ODM, John Mbadi, the whip, Junaid Mohammed, standing next to each other. In fact, they're even turning around and asking, in fact, even so-and-so was here. Where is he? They're closely sitting next to each other.
And then doing
addressing
all of this against the backdrop of asking Kenyans to stay at home.
Yep.
Don't go anywhere. The same Kenyans who have lost their jobs, the same Kenyans who are looking for food to feed their families, the same Kenyans who've been going on unpaid leave, forced leave, losing their jobs. The last 3 days, we have heard of a case every single day of organizations that have shut down because Kenyans can no longer go to work. You're asking the same Kenyans, these ones who've lost their jobs, to not go out and look for something that they can do to put extra on their table. Against this backdrop is what you're then asking Kenyans to do. And I think it's a shame. It's a sham. Call it whatever you want to call it. Shambolic in all ways.
When leaders do not lead from the front.
Yeah,
the photos today are from yesterday's meeting. Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula with Kiminini MP and Acting Secretary General Chris Omaloa and Kwanza MP Ferdinand Onyonyi with other party members addressing the press at their headquarters in Nairobi. They're sitting close to one another.
Like sandwich, like sausages.
They have masks, yes, but the masks are on their chins, okay? They are not covering their mouths. The meeting earlier at the Radisson Blue Hotel in Nairobi, the governor of, Governor Wycliffe Wangamati, Ford Kenya interim party leader Wafula Wamunyinyi, interim organizing secretary Josephine Maungu at the Radisson Blue, sitting next to each other, other leaders standing behind them, close to one another. And the issue is about observing physical distancing. Now, when you see that, and then the leadership will come and tell us, you know what, you guys, because you're not observing physical distancing in the matatu bus stages, you're not doing the same in markets, we are going to continue with these restrictions. None of this is right.
No, it isn't. I mean, two wrongs don't
the
make a right, we
leaders
understand.
meeting is wrong. People congregating and not observing physical distancing, wrong. We have seen photos from the weekend. People going out to their pubs because now the bars are open. As long as the bar can show that it's selling a meal, even if it's a sausage or a samosa, and then it's still selling alcohol, people are sitting there. And very many cases now we're hearing stories coming out to say that the patrons are complaining why the staff are closing their pub at 6. Curfew starts at 7. Come on. And they're forgetting that these staff have to
They also
close.
have to go
They've
home.
got to clean up, and then they've got to find their way home. Very many of these places, it's the staff sometimes are leaving the patrons there and saying, well, it's because we know you. Well, when you guys, when you finish, go home.
When you're done.
When you're done,
Lock
please
up
lock
behind
up
you.
behind you
We
and
have
go
gone.
home. Sisi tumeenda.
That's
And
not going to happen.
This is
Right.
becoming the story everywhere in this city.
I understand that. But I'm saying that, there's a reason why a leader is a leader, right? Lead by example, leave a fantastic example for us to emulate kind of thing. You would hope that would be the case. And we heard, it's quite unfortunate that we heard CAS Rashid Aman say that there's nothing they can do to stop leaders from convening meetings. But there seems to be something that you can do to stop individual Kenyans from convening meetings. There seems to be something that you can do to stop Kenyans from being on the street past 7 o'clock. There seems to be something that you can do to stop Kenyans from worshipping. There seems to be something you can do from stopping Kenyans to go to work. So why is it that when it comes to the application of these same things that you can do, it doesn't seem to then be able to spread to leaders? Why?
Because they're leaders.
No. That should not be an excuse. If anything, they should be the first one that you should be asking to do this. It starts from the top, man. It's unfortunate. And you know what? You're going to give Kenyans a reason to flout the rules. You're going to give Kenyans an opportunity to be able to say, well, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to look for food. I'm going to go out and I'm going to be able to look for an opportunity for me to do this other thing which I need to do. If it means me convening, I'm going to take my chances and I'm going to face the risk of perhaps getting into trouble. Because look, we can't be really serious about this thing, can we? If we have these cases where leaders are meeting and it's all over the national media, everybody can see it. So which is which? Which is which? Are we really serious about this thing? Because it would appear to many Kenyans that we're not. So let's all do what we want to do. If we're going to catch it, like you say, Eric, we're all going to die anyway. I mean, what are we talking about?
0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. What do you think? I mean, is it... I keep telling you, what the government is doing and what the government is saying are two different things. Kenya and Tanzania are the same.
Black, white.
The president of Tanzania has come out and told people, look, let's live with this thing, but let's observe all these measures. Let us observe the measures. And let us ensure that we are not transmitting COVID-19, okay? But we shall not make this a fearful thing. But Kenya, the government, is doing one thing and behaving in a completely different way. When you see leaders from the very top, because this is a very top, when you have governors, when you have senators, when you have MPs, when you have a leader of the stature of Francis Atwoli, who is now hosting parties left, right, and center. He hosted Raila and the Jubilee vice chairman.
He did.
Now he's hosted.
This is the child of that first meeting, that parent meeting. This is the child.
40 people at his home. And he says that he had somebody at the gate who was testing.
Doing testing.
We know. We are not stupid. There's absolutely no way there was
no testing happening at that gate.
But let's hear from Victor, who's calling in from Nakuru. Victor, good morning.
Morning, Eric.
Happy Madaraka Day, my brother.
Happy Madaraka. How is Ndu?
Ndu is fine, no Jerry. Please, Victor, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
You see, Kenya used to make fun like when COVID came. They used to make fun like our government want to get money from WHO and give donations.
Yep.
Sometimes they make us feel like it might be true that they want to such donations. Because how come this rules which came, are they meant for Kenyans? Kenyans like me and you and leaders have their own rules.
Yeah.
I really don't understand. But this Kenya, but I hope that things will just change. And as you speak about them, I think they see the light at the just as Barack Muleka, Barack Muleka said that this rules came about for everybody. It doesn't look for the top leadership and the Kenyans. The rules are there for everybody.
True. Thank you very much, Victor. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. Also, you can post your comment on our social media handles, Spice FM KE, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well, because that's where we are live streaming the show this morning. So, do we have a different set of rules? That's what Victor is asking.
It would appear.
There's a Kenya for leaders and there's Kenya for the rest of you.
I'm
telling you, there's no Kenya for the rest of, even the rest of you guys. When you're going to bars and you're sitting there and there are no longer police officers who are coming to chase you, this Kenya has decided this is how you're going to live with this thing. We even had a friend who called in and reminded me about this village, Chepkube, and what the then president is reported to have said. My little bird, hide yourself. However, should you get caught, you're on your own.
But we told you
exactly the same thing. My little bird, hide yourself. These are the measures. There is a curfew. There is no movement outside Nairobi Metropolitan, no movement into and out of Kwale, Mombasa, Kilifi. My little bird, these are the measures. Hide yourself. Should you get caught, you're on your own. When you see CAS, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi coming out to say, we have noticed with concern that Kenyans are using panya routes to get in and get out of the areas with restriction.
They know.
But it's my little bird. Just
fleeting about.
Zachary.
Hi, guys.
Hey, good morning. Merci, ça va.
Yeah, now, do that is a bit of French.
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to teach you if you wish.
The new French.
The new French. Now, let me tell you guys.
Tell us.
And by the way, I hope you are good and you are up and about and, you sound energetic.
We are well. We are well, thank you.
I pray that you are not going to be drained. Your energy is not going to be drained by this issue of COVID. Now, let me tell you, Mr. Eric and Do.
Yes.
The people who hurt you most are not the strangers. Like now you, Mr. Eric, the connection that you have with the Do is that you work together.
Yeah.
But above that, I don't think you are anyhow related or connected. So he cannot hurt you even if he decides to go, to go naked, yeah? You can only tell her, that this is not good according to African culture, okay? Now, what happens is this, yeah? Those guys who are a meeting, yeah?
Yep.
They seem to be close to the powers that be. And therefore it will become hard to tell somebody like Atori, what you are doing is bad because he is on our side.
He's on our side.
But at the end of the day, he is the one who is going to hurt us most. In fact, let me tell you, Mr. Eric, if you came to Studio Agri today, chances are that you have been hurt from your house.
Yes.
Okay?
It wasn't me.
And you cannot go and kill those people. And yet they are yours. They are the ones that I normally like calling. They are necessary evils, okay?
Yes.
Because when you go home, they will have prepared your food. They will give you a warm bed, They will even do some other funny things to you and you become happy, yeah?
Yeah.
So let me tell you, you had this case in Britain. I said, you are a minister, you traveled he drove so many kilometers, yeah? And that thing was almost about to bring Mr. who is this Prime Minister in Britain?
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, I hope you had that through the international media, yeah?
Yep.
Why? Because law is being obeyed by everyone.
Yeah.
Look in the United States, what is happening? The killing of one person is almost burning the whole country, and this will cost. Actually, this one is one that is going to cost our Uncle Trump. I like him calling Uncle Trump, yeah. And my comedian, he is my comedian of the times. Is going to cost him his seat, yeah.
Yeah.
So here, what we are going to do, Mr. Eric, is that because we have some sacred cows, obeying these rules of COVID-19 is going to be it's a novel actually.
And
remember I told you this. Remember I told you this, yeah?
Yep.
Once this thing was, once we were told that we had our patient zero, and I don't know her status now, I called all my aunts and I told them, in case we do not meet, yeah?
Nawapenda yote.
Nawapenda yote. Na tutakupatana pale Bigu.
Zachary, thank you. Have a good day. Let me pick this one now. This is Sam calling in from Kisumu. Have a good one, Zachary. Sam.
Morning, Eric Andu.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
We are fine, thank you. Happy Madaraka Day.
Happy Madaraka Day to you all. Thanks. Today we had a number of issues that I wish to talk about, but let me just focus on this because I also had Barack.
Yes.
And I thought what he gave us was good, but I would have appreciated it more when I had it when I was in first year. Political science class, first semester. I would have appreciated a lot of it, what he talked about. But I think now we are in a different situation that calls for leadership, not necessarily from textbooks that he was quoting. we really need to figure out where to take this country, and we need to relate more with what concerns the public. Because, like no one said that if the parliament is discussing policies that deal with COVID, then nothing else cannot be done. I mean, I keep hearing this coming up that people are discussing how to remove. Even parliament is part of this, and policies that are passed are actually supposed to be policies passed in parliament by a team that believes in what the government wants to do. So even changing committees is really part of it. Who said it's not part of it? And I keep hearing this discussion that, why are they focusing this? We can't focus on this. There's nothing exclusive. COVID came and found us in the middle of things. There are things that are still going on. So, I mean, this exclusive idea of now fighting COVID in every move that we make, left or right, that I really don't agree. But let's move first to the issue we're discussing now about people flouting leaders, especially flouting. What I'm not too sure about, Eric, can do is whether we have defined our protocols very well and we all understand what they mean. Because we're actually not in a complete lockdown. We agree on that. And people are allowed to move and only follow certain rules. Now, that's even what we do here, where I am. People do that. People do selective business. People move selective journeys, selective meetings. Things are going on, but partially. Some are shut down, some are going on partially. Now, when do you now stop leaders also from doing at their level? Because their levels have to be different. When I call Eric to meet as a friend to discuss a proposal, a business proposal, it's different from what a Twilly would organize,
True.
So if the leaders have to be allowed to operate at their level, and if about you saying, you met this and this, people, even me, I meet people. Eric can say, and you also meet people.
Even the president is hosting people at State House today.
Yeah, you're meeting people.
That is not the issue, Sam.
Though.
I think the issue here is...
The issue is...
It is about observing the some measures, because you're allowed to meet if you're essential service. And if we now say that the political class are in essential service at this point because they're discussing running the country, is fine. But should they observe those issues, those measures? Should they observe physical distancing? Should they wear masks?
That's okay. So even here in this discussion, the discussion should be whether they observed rather than why the meeting was held.
No, it's not even about why the meeting was held. I mean, I think that aside, in this point that we're looking at now, look at one of the most, should I call it famous cases that we saw. Look at the Kilifi DG, for example. Why was the issue? It was not that he was meeting people. It was the manner in which he was meeting people and the fact that he did not self-isolate after having come into the country. That is what has caused him the problems that he faces. So it's not a matter of that. Did he come in and declare that he had that issue? No. Did he now stop himself from then having these meetings, going to a funeral here, going to a meeting there, doing the other thing? No. It is not that they are meeting. It is the manner in which they are meeting. The measures having been put in place, telling us that there's testing going on at the gate, which we know very well it was not happening. If there was screening, that's something totally different. But look at the social distancing that we talked about did not take place in any way, shape, or form.
No, that's a fact. That's for sure. That also concerns me.
Yes,
the distancing. But I was hearing the debate was driving towards whether they should do meetings or whether they should not do meetings. If it's about observing protocols, we should do. But again, the government now should redraw the protocols. They should redesign the protocols, especially for politicians and leaders who want to do those meetings.
But
like Atul is saying, they were doing testing at the gate.
So let me ask you something.
That's really allowed.
Let me ask you something. So we have said that something that is as essential as attending a relative's funeral, there are restrictions. Only 15 family members can attend a funeral, and they still must also observe the physical distancing. They must wash their hands. They must do everything else. Okay, so if at a family level, if at a personal level, we are saying that you cannot attend a close relative's funeral if you're not among the 15 that are very close, why are we saying that we can allow 50, 60 leaders, political leaders, to meet because they can do this. Even Parliament itself has reduced the number of people who are sitting in the chamber.
That's why I was suggesting that they need to expand the protocols, because even for the funeral, it's very well documented that it's funeral, and people who are supposed to attend. So what about politicians who want to do certain meetings, and they're not funerals? Is there any guidance around that? That for me is what matters.
Okay.
And then if they flout it, people can ask
Then
the
you go for
question
them.
then. Yes.
Thank you, Sam. Have a good day.
Thanks. Have a good day
Thank
too.
you.
Yep. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. That's 0719-012-600. All the calls coming in. Let me pick this one from Paul in Mombasa. Paul, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning,
Happy
Paul.
Madaraka Day, Paul.
Madaraka Day to you. How is the situation room?
The situation is going.
That's nice. I hope
It's a
cool.
it's a fluid situation.
That's nice.
Uh-huh.
So I just had the discussion. It's a nice one, and I thought I should throw in a word or two.
Throw it.
So I think I have no problem with what is happening, because generally everyone is meeting everyone. Be it in our social engagements, everywhere, everyone is meeting everyone. Because when I hear of the concerns, that's why I think I was listening to something yesterday about what's happening in the US. And somebody was saying the problem is not what is being caused by what is happening now. The problem is the reporting. Because what this CNN actually, the issue was it was attacked because the problem is been reporting the negatives only.
Okay.
Every time this is negative, but it's not reporting what the people are doing right. Because there are people in those riots that are going out to stop their fellows not to vandalize places and do that harm that they're doing. But the media is not reporting that. The media is only reporting the bad things. Come back to our local situation. That's what we are doing. Because all we are focusing on is this is bad, this happened. Because even when I listen to Mudavadi, who seems to be a sober mind, saying that people have broken the curfew, people have broken the essential services, people that are supposed to move. For him, I've been seeing the whole of this week, he's been meeting people from different regions. So I don't know whether they live in the same place these days. For him to start saying that the others have broken that rule.
They haven't traveled outside the borders, the boundaries. They are within the Nairobi metropolitan.
Mandago. He met Mandago the other day. Does Mandago live in Nairobi? He met the other guys, Dimas Barasa. I was just seeing it on media. I don't think all those people live in Nairobi. Yeah. So it's just the same phrase where you throw stones and you live in a glass house.
This is
because
the case.
it favors you.
This is the case. Paul, thank you
So
very much.
Meetings are there. Let people meet so long as they observe those social distance and the rules that are there. I think let things continue, because we can't kill the country just because Corona is here.
Thank you.
Martin in Kisumu.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
We are doing well here in Kisumu. What about there?
We're doing very fine. Thank you.
Yes, a very robust discussion over there. But, 1 week ago, I visited a police station. There was a relative of mine who was arrested for defying social distancing protocol. But ironically, we felt that these people were it was overcrowded.
The police vehicle?
So, not the police vehicle, but the cell.
Okay.
Yeah, the cell was very overcrowded.
So there was no physical distancing in the cell?
No physical distance. And some were, coughing violently, sweating terribly, and therefore, the social distancing was thrown to dogs.
Yeah.
So, and what happened in Kajiado, where our politicians are not observing the same, give us very good reason to speculate that there is a scam in this COVID-19 thing.
Yeah, that's come.
Exactly, the extension of the measures. We talk about the isolation of Nairobi. Few. It is a scam. To me, I think the government or certain people in the government wanted to achieve certain things when people are marooned. Are you getting that? So that there is a leeway for them to have various meetings and also to reorganize their political, machineries and all that.
So this is a tool basically just to achieve certain, like what we are seeing now, changes in Jubilee leadership, changes in ODM in Parliament.
Correct.
It was an opportunity to do that without having people gathering.
Correct. And it's a very good opportunity for them. So that
Martin.
Churches are closed. Our brothers who are visiting churches every Sunday.
Yeah.
They are blocked to do the same. Then you can also not be, you cannot argue, you cannot demonstrate. If your person, in the house is bereaved.
But at the same time, Martin,
Yes.
Yes. Are you saying that it has absolutely no point in fighting COVID-19? We have seen these are the measures that are taken worldwide. These are the measures the World Health Organization has advised governments to institute, calling on people to reduce gatherings, social gatherings. This is not just unique to Kenya. This is global. So the measures that Kenya is actually implementing are a copy-paste of what the WHO...
Yes. It is true, but I think there is exaggeration from our government. And I think from the papers of today, you realize that these years for basic education, casting monies that they have sent to schools, refunding, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is also euphemism for, sending school not to be opened because maybe these people are very broke. All the money meant for the Ministry of Education to be channeled somewhere, something like that.
Okay. Yes. You are not the only one who's thinking that way, I'm sure. And there are very many who also think the same. But thank you very much for your contribution this morning, Martin. Have a good day in Kisumu.
Thank you.
The conversation continues, 0719-012-600. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. We know that today is a public holiday. There should be reduced movement. We also know that the national celebration is one today for Madaraka Day this year. It's only happening at State House, Nairobi, with a reduced number of invited guests being invited to State House. This will be transmitted live on TV and radio, so wherever you are, you can just follow the proceedings when they begin at State House, Nairobi, through TV and radio. Good morning. It's 13 minutes to 10. Let's take a look at traffic.
Yes, reduced traffic today because of the fact that it is a holiday. We would have seen several convoys heading in one direction or another for the celebrations, but those are taking place virtually today. So we'll see some traffic headed towards State House, but not as much as we normally would. Other parts of the city are behaving very well today. Mombasa Road, Thika Road, coming off of Westlands, Langata Road and Gong Road is looking pretty good. I don't think we're going to see any traffic today by virtue of the fact that everybody is resting. However, I must say, prepare for tomorrow. Spice of MKE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter, just in case anything does pop up. Let us know what you see. In other words, or in other cases, please be careful and take it easy.
All right, it's 10 to 10. Let's go back to the phone lines. 0719-012-600. Also, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter. Ruben.
Hey, Eric.
How are you doing, Mwalimu? How have you been?
I've been fine. How is Ndu?
Ndu is well. How are you?
I'm keeping safe.
Good.
That's good.
Now, the conversation this morning,
yes,
very interesting. I have two quick concerns. The first is that the whole world over, and Kenya notwithstanding, seems to look at COVID-19 as a very local thing. It is global. And the narrative that seems to always go out is that it's local. Now, if you look at the restrictions, all the guidelines on how we should handle COVID-19, they come from a global perspective, assuming that, for example, the way you build a house in Bunyore, where I come from, is the same way you need to build a house in Garissa. It doesn't work. And so the WHO comes with all these blanket guidelines for everybody. And so we assume that the situation in Italy and New York will work in Eldoret. It doesn't work. And so we need to localize a lot of things regarding COVID-19.
What would we localize if we looked at all the WHO guidelines? What would we need to localize that would be different? Washing hands is the same. Observing physical distancing would need to be the same. The mode of transmission of the virus is the same, after all.
It's the same, but the conditions are different. Let me give you a personal experience. You tell me to wear a mask, right? And that's that's a WHO thing. Put on a mask. So I go to a crowded city. All the fumes and all that. Everything is really bad. So I'm really looking for air. So I put on a mask. How do I get fresh air, first of all? So anyway, my incident was I put on my mask, I go to the bank, and the place is actually not aired. So it's I'm getting all stressed up. Because in a minor sense, I can't quite breathe. It's tough. So I ask for water to drink, to sort of rehydrate. And how do I take that water with a mask on?
You have got to remove the mask.
Obviously, you take the mask
I've
off.
got to remove.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, and we can talk about the mask and all that. But what I'm saying is, even for washing hands and washing surfaces and washing everything and sanitizing everything, there is a sense in which we who live in Africa, for example, have been helped a great deal by being exposed to all these microbes and all these different things that have toughened our immunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a sense in which that has been beneficial as compared to maybe a different country.
Yeah, in other parts of the world. So if you were to localize, because you said, we need to be localizing some of these things. If you were to localize, what measures would we localize and how would we go about it?
So this is only one aspect that we need to go back and draw what it means to be sovereign as a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Because sovereignty doesn't mean that we take in everything from WHO.
Mm.
Yeah, and we can talk about the UN, procedures and what, they mean for Africa, what they mean for Kenya. We can have another day for that.
Mm.
So, but we need to be hearing as Kenyans, as Kenyan medics, what are our situations? What should we do? So that's one aspect. The disturbing aspect is that as we all lock down and as we restrict and do everything else, there are people who certainly are out of the game.
Yeah.
IT companies, Google, all these big multinationals that, pharmaceuticals. So we close our schools, we close our churches, we close our businesses and have to put everything on Safaricom.
Mm-hmm.
So who's smiling all the way to the bank? And at the end of the day, it becomes like that old story of the hyena and the hare. Let's go eat our mothers.
Ruben, it's by listening to you, it sounds to me like you are not really for these restrictions. It sounds to me like...
I am for the restrictions, but restrictions should be for all.
Mm.
And, there are people even within government that are not eating their mothers. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
Okay.
True.
So if it's a global game, that there are, some animals are more equal than others.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my point.
Got your point. Thank you very much, Ruben. Have a good day in Eldoret. Is it raining or is it warming up now?
It's very nice weather, actually. The afternoons could have some showers. But yeah, it's very nice out here.
Great. Super. Enjoy yourselves out there.
Hey, you too.
Asante sana. Keep safe. 4 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is the situation. The conversation continues. Talking about the restrictions, talking about the application of the law, whether it's uniform, whether it's justified to allow some people into becoming essential service, looking at the political class and saying life must go on. So political leaders are an essential service. Okay, so let's even assume that they are. How should they conduct themselves? That's a question. Even when we say that doctors are essential service, we're not saying that doctors are therefore allowed not to wear masks. No. Doctors should wear masks because there's a basic reason of why you're wearing masks. Those doctors who are essential service should wash their hands. There's a reason why they must. You should wash your hands. So even as a political leaders, and you're saying that you're going to meet, you should still observe some of these measures and clearly demonstrate that you are clearly internalizing it. When I watched the interview by Mutuma Matthew of Nation with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the President gave that example of his own son and said, my son decided he wanted to go out and meet some people and then come back home. And the message I had to drive down into his head is that you are coming back home to your mother and your grandmother. Your grandmother is one of those people who are called vulnerable because of her age. Now, if you came back with COVID and she got it,
where would we be?
Where would we be?
That's the thing.
We've got to remember the same thing even for political leaders.
That's the thing. Looking at the consequences or looking at what could happen by virtue of the fact that you've done 1, 2, 3, by virtue of the fact that you've behaved in a certain manner, this is what could happen. And I don't understand, because we've seen examples of this. Church leader the other day having gotten this, whether she was in the group of 18 people or not who prayed. A deputy governor for Kilifi County having come back and then attended funerals. We can see examples of what would happen if you behaved in this manner. Look, just because you're a leader doesn't set you apart. You're still a human being.
Yeah.
The possibility of you spreading this thing is very high, especially when you come together in groups. You don't know where each and every individual who has been in that meeting has come from. You have no idea where they are going.
You don't know their status.
Yeah, and you don't know their status either. That's the thing. It really shouldn't matter that we have to now demarcate between leader or individual, just a normal citizen, and those are the people then who get in trouble. Have you seen what the police are doing to individuals who are caught past curfew, for example? Have you seen what is being done to them? Then suddenly, because it's a leader, it's okay. There are certain things that they're doing, so we should allow them. That should not be the case, unfortunately. And we're not even talking about that it's a leader. We're talking about the fact that there is COVID in the country. Right now, the Ministry of Health and other agencies are trying to do what they can to curb the spread. It shouldn't be that some people should be penalized when they don't toe the line, and then there's another group of people for whom it's even laughed at and say, oh, it's all right, there was a meeting, political get-together, and it's okay. No, it shouldn't be. The consequences of those actions should be made as real as the meeting that took place. This is what you could do. Why aren't they being put into quarantine? We had people who played football just 2 weeks ago. All of them rounded up, quarantined. Why?
Indeed. Good point. See you again tomorrow. Have a happy Madaraka Day. It's now coming up to 10 o'clock. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the Situation Room. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Spice up your life.
All right, are you ready?
Cruising through the golden years on 94.4 Spice FM.